After returning from a week-long international trip, I was left stunned when my mother-in-law, Carol, called with an oddly triumphant tone. She mentioned a $40,000 windfall that we had apparently saved. I was confused. As a freelance jewelry designer, I keep a tight hold on my finances, and I certainly hadn't set aside that kind of money. Carol, however, casually explained that she had taken it from our sideboard drawer money that Owen apparently gave her. I was left speechless. Where did the $40,000 come from, and why did she think it was hers to take? After returning from a week-long international trip, I was taken aback when my mother-in-law, Carol, called. There was an unusual tone of triumph in her voice, and she mentioned something about a $40,000 windfall that we had apparently saved. I was confused. As a freelance jewelry designer, I do have a savings account for emergencies, but I certainly hadn't stashed away that kind of money recently. Plus, I always kept my bank card with me, and no one else had access to withdraw such a large amount. Carol, seemingly oblivious to my confusion, casually said, "He gave it to me, so I took it from the sideboard drawer. You guys are doing well, so it's fine." I was speechless. Before I could ask for clarification, she quickly thanked me, hinted at relying on me for financial support in the future, and abruptly hung up. I was left in a daze. What money was she talking about? Where had the $40,000 come from, or where had it gone? When Owen came home later, he cleared up the misunderstanding. Thankfully, it wasn't as bad as I feared, but I couldn't shake off the strange feeling that lingered from the conversation. A month later, things took a frustrating turn. Carol began bombarding me with phone calls. At first, I thought nothing of it, figuring it wasn't urgent. But when I saw that I had over 55 missed calls, I knew I couldn't ignore her any longer. I reluctantly picked up the phone, and the moment I did, Carol's voice erupted in anger. She accused me of ignoring her and acted like she was the victim. She made it clear she believed I had wronged her. But from my perspective, it was the result of her own assumptions. Let me provide some background. My name is Harper, and I'm a 37-year-old freelance jewelry designer. I love my work, but it keeps me extremely busy. My husband, Owen, and I are also trying to start a family, which only adds to the overwhelm of balancing my growing business with personal life. Owen used to work a stable corporate job, but a few years ago, as my business started to take off, he decided to leave his position and join me full-time. His skills and management have been invaluable in helping our business flourish. In the early days of our marriage, my jewelry gigs were sporadic, and we relied on Owen's steady paycheck. But as my designs gained recognition, our roles shifted. Owen now helps me manage everything from contracts to operations. We've even secured partnerships with prestigious international brands, transforming our lives but also bringing new challenges. One of those challenges is dealing with Owen's mother, Carol. She lives alone in the family home and often views our lifestyle through a distorted lens. To her, our hard work and professional obligations look like indulgent luxury. "You two are always living so lavishly. I'm jealous," she often says, misunderstanding the nature of our expenses. For example, as part of my job, I frequently attend high-end product launches and networking dinners with executives. Carol, however, sees these events as leisure outings rather than work obligations. Her jealousy often leads to financial requests. Once she said, "I'm planning to throw a party for my friends soon. Can you give me some money for it?" While it might seem like we could afford such things easily, the reality is that maintaining our business image involves significant costs, and our budget is tightly managed. Despite explaining this to Carol repeatedly, her requests only became more persistent. She would often say things like, "You're always dressed so beautifully and eating at fancy places. I envy you." Her sarcasm and jealousy made it clear she didn't understand the sacrifices behind our apparent success. While I often refused her requests, Tom took a different approach. "If giving her a little money keeps her quiet, then it's worth it," he'd argue. For him, it was easier to offer small financial help to maintain peace, rather than deal with the disruptions or complaints might cause. Unfortunately, this approach only encouraged Carol. Her demands started to escalate over time, and her perception of our financial situation became more unrealistic. Living this way has been a balancing act, not just with our careers, but also with managing family dynamics. While Owen and I work hard to build a successful business and prepare for the future, Carol seems to see us as an endless source of financial support. Little did I know her assumptions would soon lead to even bigger misunderstandings. Recently, Carol expressed a desire for a new dress to wear to an upcoming gathering. She even came over to our place to pester Owen about it. "Wouldn't a two-piece suit work instead?" Owen suggested, trying to steer her towards something more practical. But Carol wasn't having it. She argued that while there might be cheaper options, what she wanted was a high-end outfit. I tried to explain that her choice was unnecessarily expensive, but she immediately countered, saying, "It's a fancy party. I can't be the only one there in old clothes." To make matters worse, she insisted she needed a matching handbag to go with the outfit, leaving Owen and me completely exasperated. To help manage her frequent requests, Owen had previously set up a credit card in Carol's name for her personal expenses. Initially, she went overboard with her spending, and Owen had to caution her about sticking to reasonable limits. He asked her to let us know before making significant purchases, but Carol continued her pattern of extravagant spending as if the card had no limits. One day, Carol proudly told us, "I discovered an exquisite ring and couldn't resist buying it, but I regret not informing you beforehand. The bill was quite high." This left Owen and me in a tough spot. Her unrestrained spending was becoming unsustainable for us. "If this continues, maybe it's best to take back the card," I suggested to Owen. Even though the card was in Carol's name, Owen was responsible for paying the bills. Carol seemed to view the card as a bottomless resource, not understanding that every purchase had to be paid for out of our pockets. Recognizing the need for better control, Owen decided to set a spending limit on her card to curb her expenses. This did not sit well with Carol. One day, she stormed into our house, visibly upset. "What the heck is going on? I couldn't pay for my shopping yesterday. Why did you limit my card?" she demanded. We explained that her excessive spending was putting a strain on our finances, and setting a limit was necessary to manage it. "But it's still enough for your needs, right?" Owen asked, trying to maintain peace. Carol was unimpressed. "You two still dress up, go to fancy places, and spend money on all sorts of things. How is what I'm doing any different?" she argued. She saw our professional obligations, like attending product launches and high-profile events, as nothing more than fun and leisure. "It's part of our job, Carol," I tried to explain. "If that's a job, then what I'm doing isn't any different," she snapped. "It's unfair that you two get to enjoy all the fun while I'm left behind." Her misunderstanding of our work only made the situation more frustrating. Although our business often required attending glamorous events, these weren't mere social outings. They were vital for building relationships and maintaining our professional image. Despite Carol's occasional protests, we decided to set a limit on her credit card, which helped ease tensions for a while. She still visited and complained to Owen about feeling left out, but things seemed more manageable overall. As the year progressed, an exciting opportunity arrived that could change the trajectory of my career. A prominent foreign brand reached out with a proposal to expand our business by relocating overseas. The prospect was exhilarating. It could elevate my career as a jewelry designer and potentially position me as one of the top designers in the industry. Owen, always supportive and forward-thinking, encouraged me to seize the opportunity. "This is a chance we can't pass up," he said enthusiastically. We both agreed that moving abroad was the best decision for our business and our future. However, one concern loomed over our excitement: Carol. Given her past behavior, we feared she would insist on coming with us. The thought of managing her expectations while adjusting to life in a new country seemed overwhelming. When we finally broke the news to her that we were planning to move overseas, her reaction was exactly what we had anticipated. "I want to come too," she exclaimed, assuming our move was simply an extended vacation. Owen tried to explain gently, "We're moving for work, Carol. It won't be like a holiday." But Carol, ever skeptical, shot back, "You're trying to trick me. You plan to live more lavishly there, and you don't want me to see it." Her response left us speechless. As excited as we were about this new chapter, it was clear that managing Carol's unrealistic expectations would be a significant challenge. Carol continued to insist we were lying about our intentions to move. "You're not moving there permanently," she declared. "You'll come back after your work is done." I tried to reassure her. "That's true, we're not staying forever. We'll return after our project is finished," hoping to ease her anxiety. But Carol wasn't buying it. "You're just saying that to calm me down. You're planning to leave me behind, aren't you?" she snapped, her voice dripping with suspicion. Owen and I were exhausted from the endless back and forth, so he suggested a compromise. "Okay, we can't take you with us, but how about we pay for a week-long trip for you instead?" Carol's demeanor shifted instantly. "Really? Are you sure?" she asked, her face lighting up. "We'll cover your flight and hotel, but you'll have to manage your other expenses," Owen clarified. Carol seemed satisfied with the arrangement, and for a brief moment, we thought the issue was settled. But peace was short-lived. A few days later, while Owen was busy finalizing arrangements for the move, Carol showed up unannounced. "Hey, Harper, I've been thinking. I want to shop over there too. Can you give me some money for that?" she asked, her eyes hopeful. "What about the card Owen gave you?" I asked, knowing she already had a credit card for personal expenses. Her face fell. "Well, Owen took it away from me the other day," she confessed. It turned out that Owen had confiscated the card after Carol had overspent once again. With the added complication of international currency rates, he had decided it was best to cut off her access altogether. "I don't have that kind of money on hand," I told her firmly. "I can't give you anything without Owen's approval." "Can you ask him?" she insisted, frustration building in her voice. "It's no use asking him. That's why I'm coming to you," she pressed, raising her voice. But I held my ground. Despite her persistence, I couldn't give her what she wanted. Eventually, Carol went on her 12-day trip abroad. I assumed Owen had somehow managed to fund it, although he hadn't shared the details with me. When she returned, she called me, her voice brimming with excitement. "I'm back! It was amazing! I had so much fun!" she gushed, sharing stories of sightseeing and fancy dinners. Without me even asking, she continued, "Oh, and I bought so many souvenirs that I couldn't fit them in my suitcase. I had them shipped here instead. I can't wait for them to arrive." "That's nice," I replied, keeping my tone neutral despite feeling overwhelmed by her enthusiasm. "Thanks to the money you saved up, I had a blast," she exclaimed, catching me off guard. "Saved up money? What are you talking about?" I asked, alarmed. I had no recollection of setting aside money for her. "I found it in the sideboard drawer in your house," she replied casually. "It was $40,000. I took it and used it." Her words left me stunned. Why would such a large amount of cash be stashed in a drawer? And how could she think it was okay to take it? Trying to stay calm, I said, "Carol, taking money from our house without permission is theft, even if you're family. Do you understand how serious this is?" Carol shrugged off my words. "That's why I'm telling you now. I used it. Consider it a post-fact report," she said unapologetically. "I have no idea where this money came from, but if you took it and spent it without telling anyone, that's a crime," I explained. "And if Owen had set it aside for something important, it's even worse." Carol didn't seem fazed. "You two live so extravagantly. Why can't I have a little of that? Think of it as doing a favor for your parent. It's not a big deal, right?" she rationalized, her tone filled with entitlement. "It's one thing to ask for help," I replied, still in disbelief. "But taking money without asking is not okay. I'm glad you enjoyed your trip, but I'll have to discuss this with Owen when he gets back." Carol, undeterred, said confidently, "Owen will understand. After all, I'm his mother, and $40,000 isn't much to him." That evening, when Owen returned home, he seemed troubled. "Harper, do you know about the money I left in the sideboard drawer?" he asked urgently. "What money?" I asked, already suspecting the worst. 15 days ago, I withdrew $40,000 from the bank for an urgent payment, but now it's gone. Keeping such a large sum in the drawer was careless, but I needed it readily available for a transaction. Do you know anything about it? It all clicked. Carol's earlier call, her stories about the trip, and her casual mention of taking money. It was Owen's money she had spent. "Owen," I said. "Carol called me today to thank us for $40,000 and said she had a great time on her trip. I didn't understand what she meant until now." Owen's expression shifted from confusion to frustration as he realized what had happened. "She took the money?" he asked, his voice filled with disbelief. The situation had escalated far beyond the usual family drama, and we both knew it wasn't going to be easy to resolve. I sat down, trying to make sense of everything that had just unfolded. Owen had told me the $40,000 Carol had taken was his, but I still couldn't wrap my head around why it was withdrawn in cash. "Owen, why did you withdraw such a large sum of cash? We usually handle payments through bank transfers, especially for the business. Why the sudden shift to cash?" I asked, still confused by the situation. Owen let out a weary sigh, clearly drained. After I reduced the limit on Carol's credit card, she started secretly borrowing money from multiple sources: consumer finance cards, credit cards, and even one she opened without telling us. When I found out how much debt she'd racked up, I took all her cards away to stop her from spiraling further. I withdrew the cash to pay off her debts directly, bypassing the bank so our business accounts wouldn't get affected. I wanted to handle it quietly, especially since we're moving abroad and won't be able to manage things for her anymore, he explained. He paused, looking conflicted. I intended for this to be a way of wrapping things up before we left, but Carol didn't use the money for that. She blew it all on her trip. Hearing this, a wave of anger and frustration hit me. Owen's intentions had been good. He was trying to help Carol get back on track, but her actions had completely undermined his efforts. As the weeks went by, we focused on preparing for our overseas move, but Carol's calls grew more frequent and impossible to ignore. When I finally answered one of her calls, I could hear the desperation in her voice. "Why haven't you been answering me? I've tried so many times," she cried, her voice quivering. "I'm sorry, Carol. I've been busy with packing for the move. What's going on?" I tried to stay calm, unsure of what to expect. "It's everything, Harper. They're asking for payments every day. It's too much," she confessed, almost breaking down. "Have you contacted Owen about this?" I asked, hoping she'd gone to him first. "He's blocking me. I can't get through to him at all. Harper, you're my only hope now. Please help me," she pleaded. In that moment, I realized how deep Carol's financial mess had gotten. With Owen refusing to engage and cutting off her access to money, she was turning to me as her last hope. The situation was more tangled than I had imagined. When Owen returned home, I filled him in on Carol's desperate pleas. He listened quietly, his face a mix of exhaustion and resignation. "I tried to sort this out before we left, Harper, but she wasted the chance I gave her. That money was meant to clear her debts, and instead, she used it for a luxury vacation. What else am I supposed to do?" His frustration was palpable, but I still felt uneasy about cutting her off completely. With our business expansion underway and our financial resources already stretched thin, we couldn't afford to take on Carol's burden, especially after she had misused the money we had given her. Despite the guilt that lingered, I followed Owen's lead and blocked her number, focusing on our move. But then, just as the chaos of packing seemed endless, another shocking piece of news reached us. Carol had sold her house, the family home where Owen had grown up, in an attempt to manage her mounting debts. But even after selling the property, the money wasn't enough to cover everything she owed. The loss of the house was a devastating blow. The reality that the family home was gone felt like another weight on Owen's shoulders. This entire situation had spiraled far beyond what either of us had expected, and it was becoming clear that we couldn't keep trying to fix things for Carol anymore. "Owen, the family home is gone. Are you okay with that?" I asked, sensing the sadness he was trying to mask. He shook his head, his voice tinged with sorrow. "How can I be okay with it? That house was where I grew up, where so many memories were made, but there's nothing we can do now. It's her choice, and we're not in a position to help anymore." Losing the house felt like losing a piece of Owen's childhood, a profound and irreversible loss. It was heartbreaking to see him wrestle with these emotions while knowing there was no way to salvage the situation. The house, a symbol of stability and family, was gone, and with it, a part of Carol's ability to recover from her financial chaos. As we prepared to leave for our new life overseas, the weight of what had transpired lingered heavily. Carol's actions had strained our relationships, depleted resources, and left Owen with the painful realization that he could no longer shield his mother from the consequences of her own choices. The move promised a fresh start, but it was bittersweet, knowing we were leaving behind not just our old life but also unresolved family turmoil. The loss of a family home is a profound experience, one I had endured earlier in life when my parents' house was taken away. Watching Owen go through a similar ordeal brought back those emotions, but his situation felt even more complicated. Unlike my past, Owen wasn't just losing the physical place where his earliest memories were formed. He was losing a deep emotional sanctuary. To make it harder, his mother, Carol, was still alive, a painful reminder of the circumstances that led to this loss. Describing the loss of a family home is difficult, as it's more than just a structure made of bricks and wood. It's about the sense of security and the comfort of knowing there's always a place to return to a constant amidst life's inevitable changes. The house becomes a repository of memories, history, and identity, something that Owen could no longer hold on to. The absence of this familiar anchor weighed heavily on both of us as we prepared to step into a new chapter of our lives, far away in a different country. Carol, now living in a modest apartment, faced a harsh new reality. Her days were consumed by managing mounting debts and working part-time just to get by. For someone her age, finding steady work was not only difficult, but often exhausting and unfulfilling. The life she now led was a stark contrast to the reckless spending and financial freedom she had once enjoyed. While I couldn't ignore the sympathy I felt for her, I also understood that her current predicament was a direct result of her own poor financial choices. Life has a way of teaching us hard lessons, and Carol was no exception. Her situation served as a cautionary tale, a reminder that financial responsibility is essential at any stage of life. No matter how comfortable things may seem, without restraint and planning, everything could unravel. Meanwhile, our new life abroad was unfolding in ways we hadn't anticipated. Our move had propelled our business into the international spotlight, far surpassing anything we could have imagined. Inquiries and offers flooded in from all corners of the globe. Every email, every call, brought new possibilities for expansion and collaboration, but also required more of our time and focus. The rush of success was undeniable, but it consumed every aspect of our lives. The days bled into nights as we navigated time zones, dealt with cultural differences, and tackled a constant barrage of tasks to capitalize on this golden opportunity. Yet, in all this excitement, our personal lives seemed to take a back seat. The dream of expanding our family, something Owen and I had talked about for years, felt increasingly distant. We told ourselves that we would revisit it once things settled down, but deep down, we both knew the demands of our business would not ease anytime soon. Owen, in particular, felt the strain of balancing his roles as a partner in life and business. He was constantly juggling logistics, client management, and a myriad of other responsibilities. We found ourselves asking the same question over and over. How do we make room for the life we want while managing the pressures of the life we've built? Sometimes, I would stand by the window of our apartment, gazing out at the sprawling cityscape. The neon lights stretched into the night sky, blending into the blur of our own hectic lives. This city, vibrant and relentless, had become our new home, yet it felt in stark contrast to the quiet, familiar streets we had left behind. The life we were building here was filled with promise, but also challenges we hadn't expected. It was thrilling, but overwhelming. Amid all the excitement and chaos of our new chapter, my thoughts often wandered back to Carol and the lessons her situation had taught us. Her financial recklessness and the consequences she faced were a sharp reminder of how our choices shape our future. Every decision we make, whether personal or professional, impacts not just our present, but also the legacy we leave behind. As I reflected on this, I realized the importance of finding balance. Our pursuit of success couldn't come at the cost of the relationships that truly mattered to us. While our business achievements brought us pride, they were not the sole markers of a meaningful life. Owen and I made a vow to approach this chapter with mindfulness, balancing our ambitions with our personal well-being. After all, true success isn't just about reaching the top. It's about the journey and the people we share it with. Is it worth all the sacrifices we've made for success if it costs us everything we once valued, including the relationships that should matter most? After months of escalating tension and Carol's continuous financial manipulation, Owen and I finally reached a breaking point. We tried to help her, but her reckless actions led to the loss of the family home, further straining our relationship with her. Now, in a new country with a thriving business, Owen and I are faced with a similar question. Can we maintain balance in our lives without losing ourselves to our ambitions? The pain of losing Carol's trust and seeing her struggle serves as a cautionary reminder of the consequences of our choices. From the perspective of personal responsibility, the situation with Carol has been a profound learning experience. Her financial recklessness not only affected her, but also reverberated through our family, leading to strained relationships and, ultimately, the loss of her home. While it's heartbreaking to see her facing the consequences, it's clear that Carol's choices were the driving force behind her downfall. This has led Owen and me to reassess our own actions. Our business is thriving, but at what cost? We must balance ambition with empathy and ensure that our success doesn't come at the expense of the relationships we've built. Is it possible to achieve our dreams without losing the things that truly matter, like family, love, and the integrity of our personal lives? How do you balance your professional ambitions with your personal relationships? Have you ever been in a situation where success came at a cost? Share your thoughts below and don't forget to like and subscribe to stay updated on our journey toward finding that balance.
The call came at 3 a.m. My brother Kailan's voice trembled on the other end of the line, begging me to bail him out of county jail. Again. I rubbed my eyes, already mentally calculating how much of my savings would vanish this time. I'm Remy, and I've spent my entire life trying to be the responsible one. While that might sound admirable, in my family, it's made me the boring sister, the dependable one everyone calls in emergencies, but forgets to invite to celebrations. Please, Rem, Kylan's voice cracked. I messed up. I know I did, but I can't stay here another night. I sighed, already grabbing my keys. What happened this time? Bar fight. Some guy was harassing this girl and I stepped in. Things got out of hand. Of course they did. That was Kylan's specialty, getting involved in situations that got out of hand. But I had to admit, defending someone did sound better than his usual drunk and disorderly charges. The jail was exactly as depressing as you'd expect at this hour. Fluorescent lights buzzed overhead as I counted out $5,000 in bail money, nearly everything I had left after putting a down payment on my condo last month. You're an angel, Rem, Kylan said when they finally released him. His usually perfect hair was disheveled, and his designer shirt was stained with what looked like dried blood. I swear I'll pay you back this time, every penny, like you paid me back the last 3 times. I couldn't keep the bitterness from my voice. He grabbed my hands, his green eyes wide with sincerity. I mean it. I just landed this amazing new job. First paycheck comes in next week. You'll be my first priority. I wanted to believe him. God, I always wanted to believe him. Mum and Dad don't need to know about this, he added quickly. They never do. I started walking toward the exit. Though maybe if they did, they'd finally see. See what? He caught up to me. That I'm not perfect? They'd just blame you somehow. You know how they are. He was right. Our parents had mastered the art of turning every one of Kilan's failures into someone else's fault, usually mine. Why hadn't I been watching out for him? Why hadn't I stopped him from going to that bar? You can crash at my place tonight, I offered, against my better judgment. But just tonight, back at my condo, I made up the couch while Kylan showered. Sophia, my best friend, had texted, "Tell me you didn't bail him out again." I didn't respond. Sophia had made her opinions about my brother crystal clear over the years. "This place is really coming together," Kylan said, emerging from the bathroom in borrowed sweats. He wandered around my living room, picking up framed photos and knickknacks. "You've done well for yourself, sis. No thanks to having to bail you out every few months," I muttered. He flopped onto the couch, running a hand through his damp hair. "I know I've been a burden, but things are different now. This new job, it's going to change everything. I can feel it." I wanted to believe him. Maybe this time would be different. Maybe this time, my faith in him would finally pay off, and our parents would see that I'd been right to stand by him. "Get some sleep," I said, heading to my room. "We'll talk more in the morning." But when morning came, Kylan was gone. So was my laptop, my grandmother's antique ring, and the emergency cash I kept in my desk drawer. He'd even taken the spare key I'd stupidly left on the kitchen counter. My hand shook as I called his cell. Straight to voicemail, I called again. And again. "You've reached Kylan. Leave a message." I sank to my kitchen floor, the cold tiles pressing against my legs. This wasn't happening. Not again. Not after everything I'd done for him. My phone buzzed, a text from Sophia. "Check your online banking." With trembling fingers, I logged into my account. My savings account balance stared back at me. $12.47. He'd cleaned me out completely. Another text from Sophia. "I'm coming over. Don't call your parents yet." But I already was, even knowing how this would play out. Mom answered on the third ring. "Remy, it's barely 8 a.m. on a Saturday." "Kylan stole from me," I blurted out. "He took everything." There was a pause, then a sigh. "Oh, honey, I'm sure there's been some misunderstanding. You know your brother would never—" I hung up before she could finish. Tears burned in my eyes as I stared at my reflection in the blank TV screen. The responsible one. The dependable one. The fool who never learned. But something inside me had finally snapped. This time would be different. This time, I wasn't going to let it go. Sophia arrived with coffee and a determined look in her eyes. "We're filing a police report," she announced, setting the cups down on my kitchen counter. "You know I can't do that," I said, wrapping my hands around the warm cup. "He's my brother. He's a thief who just stole your life savings." Sophia pulled out her phone. "How much exactly did he take, including the bail money and what he took from my accounts?" "Almost 30,000. The number felt like a punch to the gut. "Jesus Christ, Remy." Sophia ran a hand through her dark hair. "That's it. We're going to your parents' house. Right now." I knew it wouldn't help, but I let her drive me there anyway. The familiar 2-story colonial looked exactly as it always had. Perfect lawn, perfect flowers, perfect facade, hiding all the dysfunction within. Mom opened the door before we could knock. "Oh, good, you've calmed down," she said, as if my earlier call had been nothing more than a childish tantrum. "Come in, both of you. I'm making brunch." Dad was in his usual spot at the kitchen table, reading his tablet. He barely looked up as we entered. "Mom, Dad," I started, my voice stronger than I felt. "Kylan stole $30,000 from me last night, after I bailed him out of jail." Dad finally looked up. "Jail? What happened?" Of course that's what he focused on. "Bar fight, apparently," I said. "But that's not the point. A bar fight?" Mom interrupted, cracking eggs into a bowl. "That doesn't sound like your brother at all. Are you sure you understood what happened?" Sophia made a disgusted sound beside me. "Mrs. Boyd, with all due respect, your son just committed grand theft against your daughter. That should be your concern right now." Mom's hand stilled. "I'm sure there's been some misunderstanding. Kylan would never steal. He probably just borrowed it for an investment opportunity. He's very business-minded, you know." "An investment opportunity?" I laughed, the sound harsh and unfamiliar. "He took my grandmother's ring. Was that for business too?" "Well, you should have kept it in a safer place," Dad said, as if that explained everything. I felt something inside me crack. "Are you serious right now? Your son, your precious golden boy, just stole everything I had, And you're blaming me for not hiding my belongings better. Don't take that tone with us, Mom warned, pointing her whisk at me. We raised you better than that. Better than what? Better than telling the truth? Better than expecting my own parents to care when their daughter gets robbed? Dad set down his tablet with a sharp click. That's enough, Remy. Your brother is going through a difficult time. He's trying to find his path in life. And I'm not, I shot back. I work 60-hour weeks. I just bought my first home. I had savings, actual savings, until your son cleaned me out. But none of that matters because it's always about Kylan. You've always been jealous of your brother, Mom said softly, shaking her head. Ever since you were children. We hoped you'd grow out of it. Sophia stepped forward. Okay, that's it. We're leaving. But first, when Kylan shows up here, because we all know he will, remember this conversation. Remember how you chose to protect a thief over your daughter. He's family, Dad said firmly. And what am I? I whispered. The silence that followed was deafening. We were halfway to the door when my phone rang. Unknown number. I answered it, hoping against hope it was Kylan coming to his senses. Instead, my grandmother Gemma's voice crackled through the speaker. Remy, dear, come see me, right now. Grandma, I'm kind of in the middle of... Now, Remy. Her voice was steel. There are things you need to know. Things that will explain everything. I looked at Sophia, who nodded. Go, I'll drop you off. What things? I asked into the phone. Things your parents never wanted you to know, Gemma replied. About Kylan, about why they treat him the way they do, about why they've never been able to love you the way you deserve. My hand tightened on the phone. Behind me, I could hear Mom calling my name, probably ready to serve her perfect brunch and pretend nothing was wrong. As if my world hadn't just imploded. I'll be there in 20 minutes, I told Gemma. As Sophia drove me away from my childhood home, I watched my parents grow smaller in the side mirror. They stood in the doorway, still perfect, still united, still choosing Kylan. But Gemma's words echoed in my head. Things you need to know. Things that will explain everything. For the first time since finding my empty apartment that morning, I felt something other than despair. I felt hope. Grandma Gemma's house smelled like cinnamon and secrets. She was waiting in her favorite armchair, a leather-bound photo album in her lap. Her silver hair was perfectly styled as always, but her hands trembled slightly as she gestured for me to sit. Tea? She asked, though a steaming cup already waited for me. Grandma, what's going on? What do you know about Kylan? She opened the album, flipping through pages until she reached a particular photograph. It showed my mother, much younger, standing beside a man I didn't recognize. Your mother was 25 when this was taken, Gemma said quietly. 3 months pregnant with Kylan. The man beside her isn't your father. The room seemed to tilt sideways. What? His name was James, a colleague of your mother's at the advertising agency. They had an affair that lasted nearly a year. Gemma's voice was steady, but her eyes were sad. Your father never knew. Still doesn't. I stared at the photograph. The man, James, had Kylan's same green eyes, the same sharp jawline. But how? Dad never suspected. Your mother discovered she was pregnant right after your father got his big promotion. The one that changed everything for them. Gemma took a sip of her tea. She chose security over truth. James moved away, never knowing he had a son. Your father was so thrilled about the pregnancy he never questioned it. My hands were shaking so badly I had to set down my teacup. And you've known all this time. I caught them together once before she knew she was pregnant. She begged me not to tell. I agreed, thinking the affair would end naturally. Gemma's mouth tightened. I never imagined she'd trap your father with another man's child. But why are you telling me now? Because I've watched them destroy you trying to protect their secret. Gemma reached for my hand. They've spent 30 years overcompensating with Kylan out of guilt. Every time they favor him, every time they excuse his behavior, it's because they're terrified of anyone questioning why he doesn't quite fit. And me? My voice cracked. What about me? You're the child they actually made together, but loving you normally would mean treating you both equally. They couldn't risk the comparison. She squeezed my hand. It was easier to push you away than face their lies. I pulled my hand back, standing abruptly. This is insane. You're telling me my entire life has been shaped by their guilt over a lie. There's more. Gemma stood, moving to her desk with surprising agility for her age. She returned with a yellowed bank document. When your grandfather died, he left equal trusts for both his grandchildren. But there was a condition. The money could only go to biological descendants. My heart stopped. What? Your parents have been secretly redirecting Kylan's portion to him through other means. They couldn't let him discover he had no claim to the money. She handed me the document. Your portion is still there, untouched. They've been hiding its existence from you, claiming the trusts were dissolved years ago. I scanned the document, numbers jumping out at me, numbers with lots of zeros. How much? Enough to change your life. Gemma's eyes glinted. Enough to make them very, very nervous if the wrong questions were asked. I sank back into my chair, mind racing. Does anyone else know? Just your mother's old lawyer, who helped arrange everything. He retired years ago. Gemma smiled slightly. But he kept excellent records. Records I've been holding on to, waiting for the right moment. Why now? Because you're finally angry enough to do something about it. She closed the photo album with a snap. Your brother stole from you. Your parents dismissed it. But now you have something they can't dismiss. The truth. My phone buzzed. A text from Mom. Please come home. We can talk about this rationally. I showed it to Gemma, who snorted. Rationally? That's rich coming from a woman who's built her entire life on an irrational lie. What should I do? That depends. Gemma leaned forward. Do you want your money back, or do you want something more? More? Justice, dear. Recognition. The power to finally make them see you. I looked down at the trust document again, then at the photograph of my mother, and the man who gave Kylan his green eyes. 30 years of favoritism, of gaslighting, of making me feel less than, all because they couldn't face their own lies. I want it all, I said finally. The money, the justice, the truth, everything they've kept from me. Gemma smiled, and for the first time, I saw where I got my strength from. Then let's make a plan. A family reunion? Sophia nearly choked on her coffee. That's your master plan. I spread the documents across my kitchen table, bank statements, trust paperwork, and the photograph Gemma had given me. Think about it. The whole family will be there. Aunts, uncles, cousins, all the people Mum and Dad have been lying to for years. And you're sure about this? Sophia picked up the trust document. Because once you do this, there's no going back. They're hosting it next Saturday. I pulled up the family group chat on my phone. Mum's already sent out the invitations. She's trying to smooth things over after what happened with Kylan. Speaking of your thieving brother, any word from him? Nothing. I started organizing the papers into a folder. But he'll show up. He never misses a chance to be the center of attention. The next week passed in a blur of preparation. Gemma introduced me to her lawyer, a sharp-eyed woman named Rachel, who specialized in trust litigation. The money is legally yours, Rachel confirmed, reviewing the documents in her downtown office. We can file a petition to access it immediately, but that would tip your hand. I want to wait, I said, just until after Saturday. Rachel nodded. I'll have everything ready. Just say the word. Friday night, Mum called. You are coming tomorrow, aren't you, dear? The whole family's asking about you. Of course, Mum. I kept my voice light. Wouldn't miss it. And you're feeling better about everything? Much better. I thought about the folder sitting on my desk, loaded with 30 years of secrets. I've gained some perspective. Saturday morning dawned bright and clear. Sophia helped me dress, a crisp blue sundress that made me look professional and put together. You're sure you don't want me to come? This is something I need to do alone. I hugged her tight. But keep your phone on. The family was already gathering when I arrived. Aunt Linda's famous potato salad sat next to Uncle Mark's grilled chicken. Cousins chased each other around the backyard, while the adults clustered in groups catching up. Mom rushed over immediately. "You came!" She tried to hug me, but I stepped back. "Where's Dad?" "Grilling with your uncles." She frowned at my movement. "Honey, about last week." "Later, Mum." I spotted Gemma arriving through the side gate. "We'll talk later." The next hour was excruciating. I made small talk, picked at my food, and watched the door. Finally, right on cue, Kylan strolled in. "Sorry I'm late," he announced, immediately drawing everyone's attention. Traffic was horrible. Mum and Dad flocked to him, all smiles and hugs. No mention of the theft, of course. No questions about where he'd been. I caught Gemma's eye across the yard. She nodded slightly. "Actually," I said, raising my voice, "I'm glad you're here, Kylan. I have something to share with everyone." The conversations quieted. Mom's smile faltered. "Remy," Dad warned, "this isn't the time." "It's exactly the time." I pulled out the folder I'd been carrying. I recently learned some interesting family history, about trusts and secrets and lies. Mom went pale. "Remy, please. Did you know Grandpa left trust funds for his grandchildren?" I addressed the gathering crowd, but only for his biological grandchildren. Kylan frowned. "What are you talking about? There weren't any trust funds." "Actually, there were." I started passing out copies of the documents. "Mum and Dad just didn't want anyone asking why you weren't eligible for yours." The backyard erupted in murmurs as people began reading. Aunt Linda gasped. Uncle Mark stopped grilling. "You see," I continued, pulling out the photograph, "Mom had a secret back in the day. A secret named James." Kylan snatched the photo, his face draining of color as he stared at the man who shared his eyes. "That's enough," Dad shouted, but it was too late. "Is this true?" Aunt Linda demanded, waving the trust document. "Did you lie to all of us?" Mom was crying now. "We were trying to protect our family." "By stealing from your daughter," Gemma's voice cut through the chaos. "By favoring a child born of adultery over your own flesh and blood." Kylan looked like he might be sick. "Mom? Dad? What is this?" But our parents had no answers, only tears and stammered excuses as 30 years of deception crumbled around them. I walked over to Kylan, who was still staring at the photograph. "Now you know why they always protected you, why they excused everything you did, even stealing from me." He looked up, and for the first time in our lives, I saw real fear in his eyes. "The trust fund is mine," I said quietly. "All of it. And I'm done letting this family treat me like I'm worth less than you." The backyard had gone silent, waiting to see what would happen next. I smiled, feeling lighter than I had in years. "Now," I said, "let's talk about paying me back." "This is ridiculous," Kylan sputtered, trying to regain his composure. "You can't just show up and drop bombs like this. These documents could be fake." "Could they?" I turned to our mother. "Mom, want to tell everyone if they're fake?" Mom sank into a patio chair, mascara running down her cheeks. "I was young. I made a mistake." "The mistake wasn't the affair," Gemma cut in. "The mistake was lying to everyone for 30 years and punishing Remy for your guilt." Aunt Linda stepped forward, still clutching the documents. "All those times you told us Remy was difficult or jealous. You were just covering your tracks, weren't you? And the trust fund?" Uncle Mark joined in. "Dad left that money for his grandchildren. You had no right to hide it." Dad finally found his voice. "We did what we thought was best for this family." "Best for the family," I laughed. "You mean best for your reputation, best for your perfect son who isn't even yours." "Watch it," Kylan growled, stepping toward me. "Or what?" I met his gaze. "You'll steal from me again? Hard to do that when everyone knows what you really are." Our cousin Sarah, who'd always idolized Kylan, spoke up. "You stole from her." "It wasn't like that," Kylan protested. "I was going to pay it back." "With what money?" I pulled out my phone, showing the banking app. "You cleaned out my accounts. $30,000, Kylan. Plus Grandma's ring. Where is it?" He shifted uncomfortably. I pawned it. The collective gasp from the family was audible. That ring had been a family heirloom. Of course you did. I turned back to our parents. And let me guess, you'll find a way to excuse that too? Remy, please. Mom stood up, reaching for me. We can work this out privately, as a family. We stopped being a real family the moment you chose your lie over your daughter. I stepped back from her reach. Now everyone knows the truth. About Kalan's father, about the trust fund, about everything. What do you want? Dad's voice was desperate now. Money? We can figure something out. I want what's legally mine. I nodded toward Gemma, who pulled out her phone. My lawyer is ready to file the paperwork for the trust, unless you'd prefer to handle this through the courts. Mom went even paler. The courts? Fraud is a serious crime, Gemma said calmly, especially when it involves trust funds. Kylan suddenly lunged forward, grabbing my arm. You can't do this to me, to us. Several relatives moved to intervene, but I held up my hand. Actually, I can, and I will. Unless what? He released my arm. Unless you sign a repayment agreement for everything you stole, with interest. I don't have that kind of money. Then I guess you better find it, I smiled sweetly. I'm sure Mum and Dad will help. They always do, don't they? The backyard had become a theatre, with relatives watching the drama unfold like a live soap opera. Some were filming on their phones, others whispering among themselves. And what about us? Dad gestured between himself and Mom. What do you want from us? I want you to admit what you did, to everyone. No more lies, no more excuses. I looked around at our assembled family. I want them all to know exactly who you are and what you've done. Mom broke down completely then, sobbing into her hands. Dad looked lost, his perfect family facade crumbling before his eyes. Kylan stared at the photograph of his real father again. Did you ever plan to tell me? We wanted to protect you, Mom whispered. Protect him, I scoffed. You enabled him. You turned him into this because you couldn't face your own guilt. Aunt Linda started gathering her things. I think we should go. Clearly, this family has a lot to work through. Other relatives followed suit, but not before giving me supportive hugs or whispering quick apologies for never seeing the truth before. As the backyard emptied, I turned to my parents one last time. My lawyer will be in touch about the trust fund, and Kylan, I faced my brother, or whatever he was to me now. You have 30 days to start paying me back, or I'll press charges for theft. You wouldn't, he challenged, but his voice wavered. Try me. I gathered my things, ready to leave. I'm not the pushover you all thought I was. Not anymore. Gemma linked her arm through mine as we walked toward the gate. Behind us, I could hear Mom's sobs, Dad's attempts to comfort her, and Kylan's angry demands for more answers. But for the first time in my life, their drama wasn't my problem. Ready to go? Gemma asked. I nodded, stepping into the sunlight. Ready for whatever comes next. 3 days after the reunion, my phone wouldn't stop ringing. Relatives I hadn't heard from in years suddenly wanted to check in. Mum called hourly until I blocked her number. Dad sent lengthy emails that I deleted without reading. Sophia sat across from me at our favorite coffee shop, scrolling through the family group chat she'd been added to by my cousin Sarah. Your Aunt Linda is going off. Apparently, she's demanding your mum step down from organizing the annual charity gala. The one Mom's been running for 15 years? I sipped my latte. That's got to hurt. Serves her right. Sophia looked up. Heads up, incoming. I turned to see Kylan pushing through the coffee shop door, looking considerably less polished than usual. His designer clothes were wrinkled, and dark circles shadowed his eyes. We need to talk, he said, pulling up a chair without asking. About your repayment plan. Great. My lawyer drafted an agreement. About everything. He ran his hands through his unkempt hair. I found him, James, my real father. That got my attention. How? Facebook. Wasn't hard. He lives in Seattle now. Kylan's voice cracked. He had no idea I existed. When I called him, you called him. Yesterday, he's flying in tomorrow. Kylan laughed bitterly. Turns out he always wanted kids. Mum told him she'd had a miscarriage. Sophia whistled low. Your mum's really going for gold in the lying Olympics. I know I screwed up, Kylan said, ignoring her. The money, the ring, I was desperate. This business opportunity came up. Save it, I cut him off. I don't care about your excuses. Do you have my money or not? He pulled out an envelope. 5,000. It's all I could get together so far. And the ring? He looked down. I can't get it back. The pawn shop already sold it. The last piece of my grandmother, gone forever. I took a slow breath. Then you better find a way to pay me its value. That ring was worth 12,000. 12,000? He went pale. Remy, please, I'm trying here. Trying wouldn't have been necessary if you hadn't stolen from me in the first place. I took the envelope. 25,000 to go, plus interest. Mum and Dad can't help anymore, he blurted out. The family's freezing them out. Dad's partners at the firm are calling for a review of his position. Mum's lost half her charity board. Sounds like karma to me, Sophia muttered. My phone buzzed. A text from Gemma. Your trust fund paperwork is filed. Meeting with the bank tomorrow at 10. Look, I told Kylan, standing up. You made your choices. Now you get to live with them. Just like Mum and Dad get to live with theirs. They're still our parents, he protested. Are they? Because it seems like everything I knew about our family was a lie. I gathered my things. Figure out how to pay me back, Kylan. That's all I care about now. What about James? He grabbed my arm as I turned to leave. Don't you want to meet him? He's technically your... I don't know what he is to you. He's nothing to me. I pulled free. Just like you're nothing to me anymore. Sophia followed me out, leaving Kylan sitting alone with his $5,000 in cash and a lifetime of lies unraveling around him. That was intense, she said as we walked to my car. You okay? Before I could answer, I spotted Mum across the street, getting out of her car. Remy, she called out, please, just talk to me. You should go, I told Sophia. This isn't going to be pretty. Mum hurried across the street, ignoring the honking cars. I've been trying to reach you for days. I blocked your number for a reason. I know you're angry, she said, reaching for me, but we're still family. We can fix this. Fix what exactly? I stepped back. The 30 years of lies, the way you treated me, the fact that you let your golden boy steal from me and did nothing. I'm your mother. No, I said quietly. You're just the woman who gave birth to me, and then spent my entire life punishing me for not being him. Tears filled her eyes. That's not true. I love you. Maybe you do. But not enough to be honest. Not enough to protect me. Not enough to be a real mother. A crowd was gathering, people stopping to watch the drama unfold on the sidewalk. James is coming tomorrow, she whispered. Please, don't let him destroy what's left of our family. I laughed, the sound harsh and cold. You destroyed this family all by yourself, Mom. I just exposed the wreckage. I got in my car, leaving her crying on the sidewalk. In my rearview mirror, I saw Kylan emerge from the coffee shop, watching me drive away. Some families, I realized, aren't worth saving. The bank meeting was brief but life-changing. As I signed the final documents transferring the trust fund into my name, the banker smiled. Congratulations, Ms. Remy. You now have access to your full inheritance of $850,000. I nearly dropped my pen. I'm sorry, what? With compound interest over 30 years, she explained, the original amount has grown significantly. Outside the bank, I called Gemma. Did you know? About the amount? Of course. I could hear her smile. Your grandfather was a smart investor. He wanted his grandchildren taken care of. Children, I corrected, not grandchildren, just me. Just you, she agreed, the rightful heir. My phone buzzed with another call, Dad this time. I almost declined it, but something made me answer. James is here, he said without preamble. He wants to meet you. I told Keelan. Please, Dad's voice cracked. Just come to the house. One last time. I found myself driving there against my better judgment. Sophia's words echoed in my head. You don't owe them anything, but maybe I owed myself closure. The house was quiet when I arrived. In the living room, Mom sat rigid on the couch beside Dad. Kylan paced by the window, and in the armchair sat a man I'd only seen in photographs. Older now, but with those same green eyes. James stood when I entered. You must be Remy. Must I? I remained by the door. I'm not sure who I am in this family anymore. Remy, Mom started, but James held up his hand. Let me speak, Edith. He turned back to me. I want you to know I had no idea. About Kylan, about any of it. If I had... You'd have what? I asked. Swooped in and saved us all. Changed the last 30 years. Maybe. He shrugged. We'll never know. But I'm here now, trying to understand. Kylan stopped pacing. He wants to make things right. Right? I laughed. There is no making this right. Mom lied to everyone. Dad lived in denial. You stole from me. And now what? We're supposed to have some big happy family reunion because biological dad showed up. We were trying to protect, Mom began. If you say protect this family one more time, I swear to God. I took a deep breath. The trust fund cleared today. Do you want to know how much money you kept from me? Dad flinched. Remy, please. $850,000. I watched their faces pale. That's what your lies cost me. That's what you gave to him instead. James stepped forward. I have money too. I want to help. I don't want your money, I shouted. I don't want anything from any of you. Don't you get it? This isn't about money anymore. It's about 30 years of making me feel worthless because you couldn't face your own mistakes. The room fell silent. Outside, a lawnmower droned. Someone's kid laughed. Normal life going on while my world kept shattering. I filed a police report this morning, I said quietly. About the theft. Kylan stumbled back. You wouldn't. I warned you. 30 days to start repaying me. You gave me $5,000 and excuses. I pulled out my phone, showing them the police report number. The detective is very interested in the pattern of family cover-ups. We can fix this, Mom pleaded. James can help with the money. It's not about the money. I turned to James. You seem like a nice man. Maybe you would have been a better father than the one I got. But I don't need a father anymore. I don't need any of you. Remy, Keelan stepped toward me. You're my sister. No, I said softly. I'm not. I'm just the person you stole from. The one who finally stopped letting this family treat her like she didn't matter. I walked to the door, then paused. The detective will be in touch, Kylan. Mom, Dad, I'm sure the country club will love this latest scandal. And James? I met those familiar green eyes. I hope you find whatever you're looking for, but it's not here. As I drove away, my phone exploded with messages. I ignored them all, except one from Gemma. Come over, I made pie. In my rearview mirror, I could see them all spilling onto the front porch. The parents who failed me, the brother who wasn't my brother, and the father who came too late. But ahead of me lay something better. Freedom, truth, and the knowledge that I'd finally stopped letting their lies define my worth. Sometimes, I realized, the best revenge isn't just exposing the truth, it's walking away and letting karma do the rest. Gemma's kitchen window offered a perfect view of the moving truck in my parents' driveway. We watched as workers carried out boxes and furniture while sharing her famous apple pie. The firm asked Dad to retire early, I said, cutting another slice. Apparently, fraud allegations and family scandals are bad for business. And your mother? Lost her position at the charity. They're downsizing to a condo. I smiled. Karma's been busy. My phone buzzed. A text from the detective. K. Boyd turned himself in this morning. Wants to make a deal. Good, Gemma said when I showed her. About time he faced consequences. Sophia burst through the back door, waving a newspaper. Have you seen this? The Society page headline read, Prominent families fall from grace, fraud, theft, and hidden heirs exposed. Mom must be devastated, I said, but found I didn't care anymore. Any word from James? Left town yesterday, Sophia reported, stealing a bite of my pie. Apparently finding out your long-lost son is a thief wasn't the heartwarming reunion he hoped for. The doorbell rang. Gemma answered it, returning with a small package. It's from that detective. Inside was my grandmother's ring, still beautiful despite everything. A note read, "Recovered from pawn shop. Owner cooperated when charges were mentioned." I slipped it on, feeling whole again. Think they'll ever forgive me? Forgive you? Gemma scoffed. For what? Telling the truth? For destroying their perfect family image. They destroyed that themselves, Sophia said firmly. You just stopped covering for them. My phone rang, a number I didn't recognize. Hello? Ms. Remy? A woman's professional voice. This is Andrea from Riverside Publishing. We received your manuscript submission. I put the phone on speaker as she continued. Your story about family secrets and redemption. We'd like to offer you a contract. After the call ended, Sophia squealed and hugged me. A book deal, see? Everything really does happen for a reason. Speaking of reasons, Gemma pulled out an envelope. I have something for you. Inside was a key and a deed. What's this? This house, she said simply. I'm moving to that beachfront condo I've always wanted, and I want you to have this place. A real home with real family memories. Gemma, I can't. You can, and you will. She squeezed my hand. It's time this house belonged to someone who understands the value of truth. Through the window, I watched my parents supervising the movers, looking small and defeated. Mom glanced up, catching my eye. For a moment, we just stared at each other. Then she turned away, and I felt the last thread of our old relationship snap. The detective says Kylan's agreed to full restitution, Sophia read from her phone, plus community service. Think he'll actually change? Does it matter? She grabbed more pie. You've got your money, your ring, a book deal, and now a house. You won. But it didn't feel like winning. It felt like finally being free. The moving truck pulled away, taking with it 30 years of lies and pretense. Mom and Dad got into their car without looking back. You know what this place needs? Sophia gestured around Gemma's. No, my kitchen. A housewarming party, with only people who actually care about you. First, Gemma held up her fork. We need to talk about your book. I have some stories about your mother's childhood that would make excellent chapters. My phone buzzed one last time, an email from Dad. I'm sorry we failed you. I'm sorry I failed you. Someday I hope you'll let me try to be the father you deserved. I deleted it without responding. Maybe someday I'd be ready for their apologies. But today was about moving forward, not looking back. So, I said, reaching for the coffee pot. About those stories. Gemma's eyes twinkled. Well, there was this one time your mother tried to run away with the gardener's son. As laughter filled the kitchen, real, genuine laughter, I realized something. Family isn't about blood or secrets or lies. It's about the people who stand by you when the truth comes out. The ones who help you pick up the pieces and build something better. Sophia and Gemma kept talking, their voices warm and real in my new kitchen. Outside, the moving truck disappeared around the corner, taking my old life with it. Good riddance, I thought, and cut another slice of pie. Sometimes the happy ending isn't about forgiveness or reconciliation. Sometimes it's about letting go and finding out who you really are when you're finally completely free.
The numbers jumped out at me like accusatory fingers from my laptop screen. $300,000. That's how much money had vanished from the Research Foundation's accounts over the past year. I rubbed my tired eyes, double-checking the spreadsheet I'd been analyzing for the past 6 hours. The trail led straight to my mother. My name is Reagan, and I've spent my entire life being the responsible one, the quiet one, the one who follows the rules. While my stepsister Annabelle dazzled at charity galas and social events, I buried myself in research papers and data analysis. It wasn't that I minded. I loved my work. But tonight, everything changed. Still here? Jasper's voice made me jump. He leaned against my office doorframe, his coffee mug steaming in the dim light. It's almost midnight, Reagan. Whatever you're working on can wait until morning. I shook my head, my fingers trembling as I turned the laptop toward him. Look at this. The Foundation's quarterly reports don't match the bank statements. Someone's been siphoning money from the research grants. Jasper set his coffee down and leaned over my shoulder, his brow furrowing as he scanned the numbers. Are you sure about this? The signatures, the approval stamps, they all lead back to the Foundation's board treasurer. My voice cracked. My mother. The same mother who'd spent 20 years reminding me I wasn't as naturally gifted as Annabelle. The same woman who'd turned every one of my academic achievements into a conversation about my stepsister's latest modeling campaign or charity event. My phone buzzed, speaking of the devil. A text from Annabelle. Mom's going crazy planning next month's gala. Says you have to come this time. No excuses. Jasper squeezed my shoulder. What are you going to do? I closed my laptop, my decision crystallizing. I'm going to that gala, but not for the reasons they think. The next morning, I arrived at the Foundation's offices earlier than usual. My mother's assistant, Sarah, was already at her desk, organizing the day's schedule. Reagan, what brings you to the administrative floor? Sarah's smile was genuine. She'd always been kind to me. Just needed to drop off some research proposals, I lied smoothly. Is my mother in? She's meeting with Trevor, Annabelle's fiancé. Something about the gala sponsorships. Perfect. I slipped into my mother's empty office, my heart pounding as I connected my USB drive to her computer. The encryption software I'd installed would give me remote access to her files. What exactly are you looking for? Jasper asked later that afternoon, as we combed through the downloaded data. Proof, transactions, anything that shows... I stopped, staring at a new email thread. Here, look at this correspondence with Trevor's investment firm. They're using the gala to launder money through fake charitable donations. Jasper whistled low. Your mother and future brother-in-law are quite the team. While Annabelle plays the perfect socialite daughter, completely unaware she's being used as their cover. The bitterness in my voice surprised even me. My phone rang. My mother this time. I answered, keeping my voice steady. Darling, I need you at the dress fitting tomorrow. Annabelle's chosen the most stunning gown for the gala, and we simply must find you something... appropriate. I could hear the implied criticism, appropriate meaning understated, forgettable, nothing that would overshadow her golden child. Of course, Mother. I wouldn't miss it. After hanging up, I turned to Jasper. I've spent my whole life being the good daughter, the quiet one, the one who never caused trouble. But they crossed a line. This money was meant for medical research, for helping people. What's your plan? I pulled up the gala guest list on my screen. Board members, donors, press. The perfect audience, don't you think? Mother always taught us that presentation is everything. Jasper's eyes widened as he realized what I was suggesting. Reagan, this could destroy your family. I thought about the patients waiting for the research grants that never came, about the scientists whose projects were shelved because the funding mysteriously dried up. I thought about years of being made to feel less than, of watching my mother's casual corruption hiding behind Annabelle's perfect smile. No, I said, my voice stronger than I'd ever heard it. This will free my family. They just don't know it yet. I started gathering the evidence into a presentation, my hands steady for the first time in days. The gala was in 3 weeks, just enough time to ensure every detail was perfect. Mother always said I had a talent for detailed analysis. Time to show her just how right she was. These donation records don't make any sense, Jasper said, spreading printouts across my desk. Look at this one. $500,000 from a company that doesn't even exist. I leaned closer, scanning the documents. The past week had been a blur of late nights and coffee-fueled investigation sessions. Shell companies. They're all shell companies, aren't they? Your mother's clever. I'll give her that. Jasper pulled up another spreadsheet. But she made one mistake. She got greedy. A knock at my office door made us both jump. Annabelle stood there, looking perfectly put together as always in her designer outfit. Surprise! I brought lunch! I scrambled to close the laptop while Jasper casually swept the papers into a folder. Annabelle set down a paper bag from my favorite deli, her expression curious. Am I interrupting something? You two look like teenagers caught making out behind the bleachers. Just boring research stuff, I said quickly. What brings you here? Can't a sister bring lunch without an ulterior motive? She perched on the edge of my desk, her perfectly manicured fingers drumming against the wood. Although, Mother's driving me crazy with this gala planning. I could use a break. Jasper cleared his throat. I should get back to my lab. After he left, Annabelle's carefully maintained smile faltered. Trevor's been acting weird lately. Secretive. Always on the phone with Mother. My heart skipped a beat. Oh? I mean, I know they're working on gala stuff, but... She shrugged, trying to look nonchalant. Sometimes I feel like I'm just a prop in their perfect little world. For the first time, I really looked at my stepsister. Behind the flawless makeup and practiced smile, I saw something familiar, the same trapped feeling I'd been fighting all these years. Annabelle, I started, but my phone buzzed. A text from Sarah. Your mother's looking for the Foundation's audit reports. Says you have them? I should go. Annabelle stood up. Photo shoot for the gala invitations. Mother insists on capturing the perfect family moment. She rolled her eyes. After she left, I called Jasper. We need to move faster. Mother's looking for the audit reports. Already on it. Meet me at the coffee house in 20 minutes. The cafe was busy enough to mask our conversation. Jasper slid a USB drive across the table. I traced the shell companies. They all lead back to Trevor's investment firm. But here's where it gets interesting. The money's being routed through offshore accounts in the Cayman Islands. Classic. I took a sip of my Americano. But why? Mother's salary is more than generous. That's not all. Jasper lowered his voice. I found emails between your mother and Trevor discussing something called Project Legacy. They're planning to announce it at the gala. My phone lit up with a text from Mother. Darling, don't forget. Dress fitting tomorrow at 10. And please do something with your hair this time. I ignored it. What's Project Legacy? From what I can piece together, they're planning to restructure the foundation. Move all research funding to approved projects only. Meaning projects that funnel money back to them. The realization hit me like a punch to the gut. They're not just stealing from existing grants, they're setting up a permanent pipeline. Using Annabelle's public image as cover, Jasper added. The perfect charitable face for their scheme. I thought about Annabelle's earlier words, about feeling like a prop. She has no idea, does she? Speaking of no idea, Jasper nodded toward the cafe entrance. Trevor had just walked in with my mother. We ducked behind our menus, but they were too absorbed in their conversation to notice us. They sat at a table near enough that snippets of their discussion drifted over. The announcement will be perfect, my mother was saying. Annabelle on stage, presenting our vision for the Foundation's future. And the old guard won't know what hit them, Trevor replied with a smirk. I felt sick. They were going to use Annabelle to announce their own corrupt scheme, making her an unwitting accomplice. Back in my office, I pulled up the gala preparations folder on my laptop. Mother had already scripted everything, the speeches, the photo ops, even the exact moment Annabelle would announce Project Legacy. We can't let this happen, I told Jasper over the phone that evening. They're not just stealing money anymore. They're trying to legitimize their corruption. What's our next move? I stared at the gala invitation on my desk, featuring a photo of Annabelle's smiling face. We need to talk to Sarah. She handles all the Foundation's correspondence. She must have seen something. That's risky. She's your mother's right hand. True. I picked up the invitation. But Sarah's always had a soft spot for me. And more importantly, she believes in what the Foundation is supposed to stand for. Be careful, Reagan. The closer we get to the gala, the more dangerous this becomes. I thought about Annabelle, about all the researchers counting on these grants, about years of watching my mother's casual corruption destroy everything she touched. Some things are worth the risk. Sarah's hands shook as she handed me the stack of documents. I always knew something wasn't right, but this... She glanced nervously at my mother's empty office across the hall. If she finds out I showed you these... She won't, I assured her, quickly photographing each page with my phone. You're doing the right thing. The foundation board meeting minutes, Sarah whispered. Your mother's been doctoring them for months. The real versions are very different from what she's been presenting. A door slammed somewhere down the hall. Sarah jumped, snatching the papers back. Go, now. I slipped out just as Trevor's voice echoed through the corridor. Paula, we need to discuss the announcement. I ducked into the stairwell, pressing myself against the wall as their voices drifted down. Everything's arranged, my mother said. Once Project Legacy is announced, the board won't have a choice. The press will be there, the major donors. And Annabelle? She'll do exactly what she's told. She always does. Their footsteps faded. I waited until the coast was clear, then rushed to Jasper's lab. You look like you've seen a ghost, he said, pulling me inside. Better. I connected my phone to his computer. Sarah came through. Look at these meeting minutes. Mother's been systematically misleading the board about where the money's going. Jasper scrolled through the photos. This is huge, Reagan. With this evidence, the lab door burst open. Annabelle stood there, mascara streaking her cheeks. I need to talk to you. Jasper and I exchanged panicked looks. How much had she heard? Trevor's cheating on me, she blurted out. Not what I was expecting. What? How do you know? I found messages on his phone, but it's worse than that. She collapsed into a chair. He's been meeting with Mother almost every day, planning something big. Something about the foundation. I caught Jasper's eye. He nodded slightly. Annabelle, I said carefully, what do you know about Project Legacy? Her perfectly plucked eyebrows drew together. The new charitable initiative? Mother says I'm announcing it at the gala. Some kind of restructuring to make the foundation more efficient. She paused. Why? Because it's a lie. The words tumbled out before I could stop them. The whole thing is a front for embezzlement. Mother and Trevor have been stealing from research grants, and they're planning to use you to make it all look legitimate. Annabelle stared at me, then laughed shakily. That's ridiculous. Mother would never... I mean, she's always been about appearances, but... Look. I pulled up the evidence on Jasper's computer. These are the real numbers, the shell companies, the offshore accounts. As Annabelle read, her face went from disbelief to horror to anger. All those times they were planning the gala together. They were planning this? They're going to have you announce it, Jasper said gently. Make you the face of their scheme. Annabelle stood up abruptly, pacing the lab. I always knew Mother was controlling, but this? Using me to steal from sick people? She whirled to face me. Why didn't you tell me sooner? Would you have believed me? I asked quietly. Over Mother? She stopped pacing. No, probably not. A bitter laugh escaped her. God, I've been so stupid. The perfect daughter doing exactly what she's told. My phone buzzed. A text from Sarah. Your mother's looking for the original meeting minutes. She knows something's wrong. We need to move fast, I told them. Mother suspects something's up. What are you planning to do? Annabelle asked. Expose everything, at the gala. You'll destroy her. She destroyed herself. I hesitated. But I can't do it alone. I need your help. Annabelle was quiet for a long moment, twisting her engagement ring around her finger. Finally, she pulled it off and set it on Jasper's desk with a decisive click. Count me in. Her voice was steel. Nobody uses me as a prop in their corruption scheme. Not even Mother. Jasper cleared his throat. Not to interrupt this touching sister moment, but we have another problem. Look at this email I just found. We crowded around his computer. Mother had sent instructions to the Foundation's IT department to wipe certain servers, scheduled for the day before the gala. She's covering her tracks, I said. Then we better make sure we have everything we need before she does. Annabelle pulled out her phone. I know Mother's passwords, all of them. She made me memorize them in case of emergencies. For the first time since this began, I felt real hope. Together we might actually pull this off. The gala's in 2 weeks, Jasper reminded us. Annabelle's smile was fierce. Perfect. Just enough time to plan our own little announcement. Smile, darling. You look like you're at a funeral. Mother adjusted my dress for the 10th time as the boutique's seamstress pinned the hem. The gala is a celebration, not a wake, if she only knew. I forced a smile, catching Annabelle's eye in the mirror. My stepsister was perched on a velvet settee, pretending to scroll through her phone while actually recording every word. The press will be there, Mother continued, fussing with my hair. The governor, key donors, everything must be perfect. She turned to Annabelle. Darling, have you memorized your speech for the Project Legacy announcement? Every word, Mother. Annabelle's voice was honey-sweet, though I was thinking of adding my own personal touch. Mother's smile tightened. Stick to the script, dear. This isn't the time for improvisation. The seamstress finished her work, and Mother swept out to take a call, leaving Annabelle and me alone in the fitting room. Did you get that? I whispered. Annabelle played back the recording. Mother's voice rang clear. The governor's office has already approved the restructuring. Once the announcement is made, it's a done deal. Another piece of evidence. I stepped down from the platform, careful of the pins. How are things with Trevor? He's suspicious, keeps asking if I've talked to you lately. She lowered her voice. Last night, I found him going through my laptop. Did he find anything? Please. She rolled her eyes. I learned from the best. Mother taught me everything about keeping secrets. Her smile turned bitter. Ironic, isn't it? The boutique door chimed. Jasper walked in, pretending to be lost. Sir, this is a private fitting, the saleswoman began. Oh, Jasper, Annabelle called out. Right on time to help with color choices. Mother returned just then, her face darkening at the sight of him. What is he doing here? I invited him, Annabelle said smoothly. We need a man's opinion, don't we? And since Trevor's so busy with foundation work? Mother's expression shifted from annoyance to satisfaction. Of course, dear, though perhaps someone more qualified. Actually, Jasper interrupted, I came to discuss the latest grant applications with Reagan. Time-sensitive matters. Work, 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 Mother sighed. Reagan, dear, you really must learn to separate your professional and personal life. The gala is in 10 days, I finished. I know, Mother. Everything will be perfect. After Mother left to berate the saleswoman about something, Jasper pulled out his phone. Sarah came through again. Look what she found in the Foundation's archived emails. I looked at the screen, my breath catching. There it was, the original proposal for Project Legacy, dated 2 years ago. But instead of a charitable initiative, it outlined a complex scheme to redirect research funds through private investments. Mother's been planning this for years, Annabelle whispered, reading over my shoulder. There's more, Jasper said. Trevor's firm isn't just managing the money. They're creating fake research projects to justify the funding transfers. The boutique door chimed again. Trevor walked in. Hide the phone, I hissed. Annabelle immediately draped herself on Trevor's arm, playing the adoring fiancé. Darling, what a surprise. We were just discussing the gala. Were you? Trevor's eyes flickered between us. With him? He nodded toward Jasper. Fashion emergency, Jasper said dryly. Apparently, I have an eye for color. Annabelle, Trevor said, his voice tight. A word? They stepped aside, but not far enough that we couldn't hear. Your mother's worried, Trevor muttered. Says you've been distant, asking strange questions about the Foundation. I'm just trying to understand my role better, Annabelle replied, for the announcement. Stick to the script. The same words Mother had used. There's too much at stake. After they left, Jasper turned to me. They're getting nervous. Good. I checked my phone. A new message from Sarah. Your mother just called an emergency board meeting for tomorrow. Something about security concerns. She's moving faster than we expected, Jasper said. We need to be ready. I looked at my reflection in the fitting room mirror. The perfect daughter in the perfect dress for the perfect gala. Mother had spent years crafting this image, using both Annabelle and me as pieces in her elaborate game. Reagan? Jasper touched my arm. Are you sure about this? Once we do this, there's no going back. I'm sure. I smoothed down the dress. Mother always taught us that presentation is everything. Time to show her just how well we learned that lesson. The board meeting tomorrow, he said. If she's planning what I think she is, then we'll be ready. I picked up my phone to text Annabelle. Tell Trevor you're spending the night reviewing your speech. Meet us at my place at 8. The response came immediately. I'll bring wine. We're going to need it. The pieces were in place. Now we just had to survive the next 10 days. The board meeting was a disaster, Sarah whispered into her phone. I had her on speaker as Annabelle, Jasper, and I huddled around my kitchen table. Your mother's convinced there's a leak. She's ordered a complete system lockdown. Can you still access the files? I asked, watching Jasper type frantically on his laptop. No, but... Sarah lowered her voice further. I made copies, everything. I'll leave them in the usual place. After hanging up, Annabelle poured more wine into our glasses. Mother called me 3 times today. She wants me to move the Project Legacy announcement to the beginning of the gala, instead of after dinner. She's rushing it, Jasper said, still typing, trying to get ahead of any potential exposure. My phone buzzed. Trevor calling. I showed the screen to Annabelle. Don't answer, she said. He's been watching me like a hawk. Yesterday, he followed me to the grocery store. We need to move faster. I pulled up our evidence folder. Sarah's copies will be the final piece. Once we have those... A knock at my door made us all freeze. Through the peephole, I saw Mother standing there, perfectly coiffed, despite the late hour. Places, everyone, I whispered. Jasper grabbed his laptop and slipped into my bedroom, while Annabelle quickly hid the documents under my couch cushions. I opened the door. Mother, it's almost midnight. Can't a mother check on her daughters? She swept in, taking in the wine glasses and Annabelle's presence with sharp eyes. A little late for a social call, isn't it? Wedding jitters, Annabelle said smoothly. I needed sister time. Mother's smile didn't reach her eyes. How sweet, though I hope these sisterly bonding sessions aren't distracting you from your speech preparation. Actually, I interjected, I've been helping her practice. Want to hear it? You? Mother's laugh was like breaking glass. Darling, no offense, but public speaking has never been your strong suit. Remember your high school graduation? That awkward valedictorian speech? Annabelle stood up. Mother, stop it. Reagan's been incredibly helpful. Has she? Mother's gaze swept the room. And what else has your sister been helping with? The temperature seemed to drop 10 degrees. Before anyone could respond, a toilet flushed, Jasper's signal that he'd finished wiping his laptop's search history. Mother's eyes narrowed. Do you have company? Just me. Jasper emerged, the picture of casual innocence. Late-night research consultation. You know how it is with grant deadlines. Indeed. Mother's voice could have frozen hell. Reagan, darling, a word in private? She led me to the kitchen, her manicured nails digging into my arm. Whatever you think you're doing, stop it. Now. I don't know what you mean. Don't play dumb. It doesn't suit you. She leaned closer. You've always been the smart one, haven't you? Hidden away in your lab, watching, analyzing. But this time you're out of your depth. Am I? The foundation is my life's work. I won't let anyone destroy that. Not even you. Her smile turned predatory. Did you really think I wouldn't notice the server access logs? The copied files? My heart stopped. Mother. I'm moving the announcement to tomorrow night. She released my arm. A private preview event. Just key stakeholders and family. No press, no distractions. That's not the plan, Annabelle said from the doorway. The gala... Plans change, darling. Be ready at 7. Mother headed for the door, then paused. Oh, and Reagan, I've suspended your lab's funding. Pending review, of course. We can't be too careful with security concerns. After she left, we all stared at each other in shocked silence. She knows, Jasper said, emerging from the bedroom. She's cutting us off at the knees. Not yet. I pulled out my phone. Sarah, change of plans. We need those files tonight. The security guards. I don't care. Mother's moving everything up. Tomorrow night. Annabelle was already grabbing her coat. I'll create a distraction at the foundation. Say I need to practice in the event space. I'll handle the tech side, Jasper added. If she's locked down the servers, there might still be a backdoor through the backup systems. My phone buzzed with a text from Trevor. Whatever you're planning, don't. Some things are bigger than family. He's right, I said, showing them the message. This is bigger than family. That's exactly why we have to do it. Annabelle grabbed her keys. Meet at the foundation in 30 minutes, back entrance. As they left, I looked at the wine glasses on my table, evidence of our conspiracy. Mother had taught us well, about appearances, about secrets, about power. But she'd forgotten one crucial lesson. The student sometimes surpasses the teacher. The foundation's preview event buzzed with nervous energy. Board members mingled with investors, their champagne glasses clinking like wind chimes before a storm. Mother held court near the podium, resplendent in midnight blue, while Trevor hovered nearby, checking his phone every 30 seconds. "Stop fidgeting," Mother hissed as I passed. "And for heaven's sake, fix your hair." I touched the USB drive hidden in my clutch, remembering last night's frantic operation. Sarah had come through. The files were devastating. Mother had no idea we'd managed to access them just hours before her system purge. 5 minutes until the announcement, Trevor announced, his voice carrying across the room. "Everyone, please take your seats." Annabelle appeared at my elbow, looking stunning in emerald green. "Ready? Sarah's in position?" "Broadcasting everything to the main foundation servers." She squeezed my hand. "Once this starts, there's no stopping it. Ladies and gentlemen," Mother took the stage, practically glowing. "Thank you all for joining us on such short notice. Tonight marks a new chapter in our foundation's history." I slipped away toward the AV booth while she spoke, my heart thundering. Jasper was already there, pretending to adjust sound levels. "Cameras are live," he whispered. "Every board member got an anonymous email link. They're all watching the live stream on their phones." "And the backup?" "Running. Even if they cut the power, everything's being recorded to external servers." Mother's voice filled the room. "And now, I'm thrilled to introduce my daughter, Annabelle, who will share our vision for Project Legacy." Applause erupted as Annabelle took the stage. She looked perfectly poised, exactly as Mother had trained her to be, but I saw her hands shaking as she gripped the podium. "Thank you, Mother." Annabelle's voice was clear and strong. "Before I begin, I'd like to share something personal." Mother's smile flickered. This wasn't in the script. "All my life I've been the face of this foundation, the perfect daughter, the charitable socialite, the cover story." Annabelle paused. "But tonight, I'm choosing to be something else, honest." Trevor started moving toward the stage. I nodded to Jasper, who clicked a button. The screens behind Annabelle lit up with financial records, email chains, offshore account details. "Project Legacy isn't about charity," Annabelle continued as gasps filled the room. "It's about greed, corruption, stealing from the sick and desperate to line private pockets." "That's enough!" Mother's voice cracked like a whip. "Security!" I stepped onto the stage beside my sister. "The evidence has already been sent to the FBI, Mother, and the press. Sarah's broadcasting this live to every major news outlet." The room erupted in chaos. Board members jumped to their feet, phones recording everything. Trevor tried to reach the AV booth, but Jasper had locked the door. "You ungrateful little—" Mother lunged for the podium, but Annabelle stood her ground. $300,000 from the Cancer Research Fund, Annabelle read from the screen. $500,000 from pediatric studies, all funneled through Trevor's investment firm into private accounts. "You have no idea what you're doing," Mother snarled. "The people we answer to? We'll all be investigated," I finished. "Every shell company, every fake grant, every donor who helped you steal from sick children." Trevor finally reached the stage. "Paula, we need to leave. Now." But Mother wasn't finished. She grabbed the microphone. "Everything I did was for this foundation, for our family's legacy." "No," Annabelle's voice cut through the chaos. "It was for you, always for you, using me as your perfect distraction while you robbed the people we promised to help." Security guards appeared at the doors. but they weren't Mother's. Sarah had called in the real police. "Paula Horton?" An officer approached the stage. "We need you to come with us." The look Mother gave me could have melted steel. "I gave you everything, both of you. This is how you repay me?" "You gave us lessons in manipulation and lies," I said. "Consider this our final exam." As they led Mother and Trevor away, the board members crowded around us, demanding explanations. Phones kept recording, questions flew from all directions. Through it all, Annabelle held my hand, both of us standing tall. "Miss Horton?" A reporter had somehow gotten in. "What happens to the foundation now?" I looked at Annabelle, who nodded. "We start over, transparently, honestly, the way it always should have been. And Project Legacy," someone called out, "will be exactly what it claims to be," Annabelle answered. "A fresh start, a true legacy of helping others, not helping ourselves." As the chaos continued around us, Jasper appeared at my side. "You did it." "We did it," I corrected, watching Mother's perfect world crumble. "All of us." The truth was out, the storm had broken. And somehow, standing in the wreckage of our mother's empire, I felt lighter than I had in years. The police station buzzed with activity as Mother sat across from us, her designer outfit wrinkled from hours in holding. Her makeup had smeared, but her eyes remained sharp as razors. "You've made your point," she said coldly. "Now drop the charges." Annabelle laughed, a harsh, bitter sound. "Drop the charges. The FBI has already seized the Foundation's accounts. Trevor's singing like a bird to save himself. It's over, Mother." "Over?" Mother leaned forward. "Do you have any idea how many lives you've ruined? The connections you've severed? The donors?" "The donors are cooperating with the investigation," I cut in. "Turns out nobody wants to be connected to a charity fraud scandal." The detective entered, placing a thick file on the table. "Mrs. Horton, we've found additional accounts in the Cayman Islands. Care to explain?" Mother's lawyer touched her arm. "My client exercises her right to remain silent." "That's a first," Annabelle muttered. We watched as Mother was led back to her cell. Through the window, I could see reporters camped outside the station, hungry for updates on the scandal that had rocked the city's philanthropic community. "Miss Horton?" The detective addressed me. "We'll need your statement about when you first discovered the discrepancies." For the next 2 hours, I walked them through everything. The missing research funds, the shell companies, the fake grants. Annabelle added her own testimony about Trevor's involvement and the planned announcement. "Your mother's looking at serious time," the detective said finally. "Both of them are. The amount of money involved. We're talking federal charges." Jasper was waiting outside the interview room. "The board's called an emergency meeting. They want you both there." "Now?" Annabelle checked her phone. "It's almost midnight. Damage control doesn't sleep." The Foundation's offices were eerily quiet as we rode the elevator to the boardroom. Sarah met us at the door, her eyes red from crying. "They've been in there for hours," she whispered, "trying to save what's left." Inside, the board members looked shell-shocked. The chairman, an elderly man who'd known our father, spoke first. "Ladies, please sit down." He shuffled some papers. "We've spent the evening reviewing the extent of the situation. The Foundation's reputation is salvageable," I interrupted, "if we act fast and with complete transparency." "The press is calling it the legacy scandal," another board member said. "Our donors are fleeing." Annabelle straightened in her chair. "Then let me talk to them. I've been the face of this foundation for years. Let me tell them the truth, that we discovered the corruption and chose to expose it ourselves. It's not that simple. Actually, it is." I pulled out my laptop. "I've drafted a complete restructuring plan, new oversight measures, transparent accounting, direct links between donors and the research they fund." The board members exchanged looks. "We need new leadership," the chairman said slowly. "Someone who understands both the scientific and public aspects of our mission." I felt Annabelle squeeze my hand under the table. "We'd like to offer you both positions," he continued. "Reagan as Executive Director of Research, Annabelle as Director of Public Relations and Donor Relations." "Together?" Annabelle asked. "Together. Your actions, while shocking, showed integrity, something this foundation desperately needs to rebuild. As we left the building hours later, the sky was starting to lighten. Reporters swarmed us immediately. "Miss Horton, how does it feel to expose your own mother's corruption? What's next for the foundation?" Annabelle stepped forward, every inch the polished spokesperson. "The foundation is entering a new era of transparency and genuine charitable work. My sister and I—" "Look!" someone shouted. Through the media crowd, we saw Trevor being led out of the federal building in handcuffs. His expensive suit was rumpled, his face ashen. "Miss Sanderson, do you have any comment about your ex-fiancé's arrest?" Annabelle's composure cracked slightly. I stepped up beside her. "The Foundation's future isn't about the past," I said firmly. "It's about the researchers working to save lives, the patients waiting for breakthroughs, and the donors who genuinely want to help. That's the only story that matters now." Jasper appeared with his car, offering escape from the media frenzy. As we drove away, Annabelle finally broke down. "I loved him," she whispered, "or thought I did. How did we not see who they really were?" "We saw what they wanted us to see," I replied, "just like everyone else." "The board meeting tomorrow." "Today," Jasper corrected, glancing at the dawn breaking over the city. "Today," Annabelle agreed. "We start fixing everything they broke." I thought about Mother sitting in her cell, still believing she was right. About all the years she'd spent teaching us to maintain appearances while hiding ugly truths. "We're not fixing their foundation," I said. "We're building our own, the right way this time." The sun rose higher, painting the sky in shades of promise. Somewhere in the city, Mother's empire was crumbling. But from its ashes, something honest could finally grow. "Guilty on all counts," the judge's voice echoed through the courtroom. Mother stood perfectly straight, her designer suit a stark contrast to the handcuffs at her wrists. She didn't look at us as they led her away. Trevor had already taken his plea deal, trading information for a lighter sentence. But Mother had insisted on fighting, convinced until the end that she could talk her way out of anything. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed us again. This time I was ready. "The verdict sends a clear message," I said into the forest of microphones. "No one is above accountability, not even family." "Miss Horton, the Foundation's new pediatric research initiative has already raised millions. Was this your response to your mother's crimes?" Annabelle stepped forward. "Every dollar stolen from sick children will be repaid threefold. That's our promise." Back at the Foundation, Sarah had arranged a staff meeting. The boardroom was packed. Researchers, administrators, grant coordinators, all waiting to hear what came next. "The trial's over," I announced. "Now we focus on what matters, the work." "Dr. Reynolds' cancer study needs additional funding," someone called out. "Approved," Annabelle said, checking her tablet, "along with the stem cell research team and the rare disease initiative." "But the budget is solid," I assured them. "Every donation is now tracked in real time on our public database. Donors can see exactly where their money goes, down to the last cent." After the meeting, Jasper found me in my office. "You haven't opened it yet." He nodded at the envelope on my desk, Mother's last attempt to communicate before sentencing. "Nothing she says can change anything." "Maybe not, but you might need to hear it anyway." I picked up the letter, Mother's precise handwriting stark against the prison stationery. "Reagan, you think you've won? Perhaps you have. But everything I did was to secure our position, our influence. You'll understand someday when the weight of legacy bears down on you. Power requires sacrifice. Remember that. Mother." Annabelle appeared in the doorway as I crumpled the letter. Still trying to justify herself? Still trying to teach her lessons? I tossed the paper into the shredder. Speaking of which, the university called. They want us to give a guest lecture on ethical leadership. "Us?" Annabelle laughed. "I'm not exactly professor material." "No, you're better. You're living proof that people can choose integrity over advantage." The intercom buzzed. Sarah's voice carried through. "The governor's here for the tour." We walked together through the Foundation's halls, now bright with transparency, both literal and figurative. Glass walls had replaced solid ones, letting sunlight and scrutiny reach every corner. The governor waited in the lobby, surrounded by aides. Impressive changes, he said, gesturing at the digital displays showing real-time grant allocations and research progress. Very modern. Would you like to meet some of our researchers? I offered. Dr. Reynolds is about to test a promising new treatment protocol. Actually, he cleared his throat. I was hoping to discuss the Foundation's political connections. Your mother had certain arrangements. Those arrangements died with the old regime, Annabelle cut in smoothly. But we'd love to show you how your state's medical research grants are advancing critical studies. I hid my smile. Mother had taught us well about handling powerful people, just not the way she'd intended. Later, in the lab, Jasper showed us the latest results from the pediatric trials. This could change everything, he said, pointing to the data. With the new funding, we might have a breakthrough within months. Mother would have buried this, I realized. It didn't fit her profit model. Mother isn't here, Annabelle said firmly. We are, and we're doing it right. My phone buzzed. A text from Sarah. Reporter from Times requesting interview. Says it's about Mother's old network starting new foundation across state. I showed the message to Annabelle. Ready to fight another battle? Always, she grinned. But first, dinner? I'm starving. As we left the building, I caught our reflection in the glass doors. Two sisters, no longer in anyone's shadow. The Foundation's new logo shone above us. Truth heals. You know what Mother never understood? Annabelle said as we walked to the car. Real power isn't about control, it's about choice. And we choose to help people, I finished. The city lights sparkled around us, each one representing someone whose life our work might touch. Mother's legacy had been built on lies, but ours would be built on something stronger: truth, trust, and the courage to stand up for both. So, Jasper called from behind us, about that Times reporter. I exchanged looks with Annabelle. We both smiled. Another battle, another day. But this time we were fighting for something real, and that made all the difference.
The moment I stepped through my childhood home's front door, I knew something was wrong. The familiar scent of Mom's arroz con pollo filled the air, but the warmth I expected to feel never came. Instead, there was a hollow emptiness that made my stomach twist. My name is Tatum, and after spending a year building my career abroad, I thought coming home would feel like slipping into a favorite sweater. I was wrong. Mama! I called out, wheeling my suitcase across the worn hardwood floors. The sound echoed through the house, followed by the clatter of pots from the kitchen. Tatum, me here. Mom emerged, wiping her hands on her apron. Her embrace was tight, but something felt off in the way she pulled back too quickly. We weren't expecting you until tomorrow. I caught an earlier flight, I said, scanning the living room. Everything looked the same, except, where's Abuela's portrait? Mom's smile faltered. We had to make some changes while you were gone. Carmen's wedding planning took over the house. I walked to the empty wall space, my fingers tracing the faded rectangle where the portrait had hung for decades. And Abuela's ring? I'd like to wear it now that I'm home. The silence that followed was deafening. Mama! I turned to face her, my heart racing. Where's the ring? She wouldn't meet my eyes. We needed it for Carmen's wedding. The venue she wanted was expensive, and you sold it? The words came out as a whisper, but they might as well have been a scream. That ring was meant for me. Abuela promised. You've been gone too long, Tatum. Mom cut me off, her voice hardening. Carmen needed it more. She's building a life here, while you've been off chasing dreams in Europe. The front door opened and Carmen breezed in, her perfectly manicured hands clutching wedding magazines. Tatum, oh my God, you're early. She moved to hug me, but I stepped back. You sold Abuela's ring? Carmen's smile dimmed. Oh, that. She glanced at Mom, then back to me. It was just sitting in a box, and the wedding venue? Just sitting in a box? My voice cracked. That ring was the last thing Abuela gave me before she died. She made you promise, both of you, that it would be mine when I turned 30. Which was 3 months ago, Mom interjected, when you were too busy with your career to come home and celebrate with family. I was closing a major deal. You knew that. The memory of Abuela slipping the ring off her finger and pressing it into my palm flooded back. Mi pequeña guerrera, she'd said. This ring survived wars, crossed oceans. It's meant for someone strong, someone who fights for what matters. It's done, Tatum, Mom said firmly. The ring is gone, and Carmen's wedding is in 2 months. Either be happy for your sister or what? I challenged, but Mom just shook her head and returned to the kitchen. Carmen stepped closer, lowering her voice. Look, I know you're upset, but this wedding means everything to me and Lucas. The venue was perfect, and we needed the money. You understand, right? I stared at my sister, this person I'd grown up with, shared secrets with, protected from schoolyard bullies. Now she stood before me, perfectly coiffed and completely unrepentant about stealing my inheritance. Congratulations on your wedding, Carmen, I said, my voice steady despite the rage building inside me. I hope the venue was worth it. I grabbed my suitcase and headed upstairs to my old room, ignoring Carmen's calls behind me. Once inside, I locked the door and sank onto my bed, pulling out my phone to text Remy. They sold it. They actually sold Abuela's ring. Remy's response was immediate. What are you going to do? I looked at the photo on my nightstand, Abuela and me on my college graduation day, her ring glinting in the sunlight as she held my hand. The memory of her words echoed in my mind. Sometimes, mi amor, justice comes not from fighting, but from being clever enough to make others face their own choices. I'm going to make them regret it, I typed back to Remy. Every last penny they got from that ring. From downstairs, I could hear Carmen's excited chatter about table arrangements and flower choices. Mom's laughter floated up through the floorboards, and my jaw clenched. They thought they could dismiss me, dismiss Abuela's wishes, because I'd been gone too long. Well, I was home now, and they were about to learn that the little girl they remembered had grown into exactly the kind of woman Abuela had seen in me. Someone who fights for what matters, no matter the cost. I spent the next morning at the local coffee shop, laptop open, diving deep into my family's financial records. Being a financial analyst had its perks, namely, knowing exactly where to look for information that most people wouldn't think to hide. More coffee? The barista asked, hovering near my table. Please, I nodded, not looking up from my screen. Something wasn't adding up. Carmen's wedding venue cost was astronomical, but the money from Abuela's ring wouldn't have covered even half of it. There had to be more to the story. My phone buzzed with a text from Carmen. Dress fitting at 2. You're coming, right? I typed back a quick, of course, while opening another browser tab. That's when I saw it, a mortgage approval from 3 weeks ago. My fingers flew across the keyboard, pulling up property records. Holy shit, I whispered. They hadn't just sold Abuela's ring for the venue. They'd used it as part of a down payment on a house, Carmen and Lucas's dream home. My phone buzzed again. Remy this time. Found anything? Meet me for lunch? Need your legal expertise. An hour later, Remy slid into the booth across from me at our favorite diner. Spill, she said, ordering a coffee without looking at the menu. I pushed my laptop toward her. They bought a house, used Abuela's ring money as part of the down payment. Remy's eyes widened as she scrolled through the documents. This is a gorgeous property, but wait. She squinted at the screen. There's something odd about this mortgage structure. Exactly, I said, leaning forward. They barely qualified. One missed payment, and the whole thing could collapse. Tatum, Remy warned. Whatever you're thinking. I know the real estate agent, I cut in. Remember Jake from high school? He handled the sale. Remy sat back, crossing her arms. And he owes me a favor. Remember that time I helped his sister with her visa application? Tatum! The waitress arrived with our food, interrupting whatever protest Remy was about to make. I waited until she left before continuing. I'm not doing anything illegal, I assured her, just making some inquiries as a potential buyer. Of what? Any properties Jake has listed, including ones that might come available soon? Remy took a bite of her sandwich, chewing thoughtfully. You're going to try to buy their house if they default, aren't you? I shrugged, picking at my fries. I'm just keeping my options open. You need to be careful, Remy said, lowering her voice. This isn't just about the ring anymore. You're right, I agreed, checking the time. It's about respect, family, keeping promises. I stood up, grabbing my purse. Speaking of which, I have a dress fitting to attend. The bridal shop was exactly as pretentious as I expected. Carmen stood on a pedestal surrounded by mirrors, while Mom dabbed at her eyes with a tissue. You look beautiful, mi amor, Mom gushed. I forced a smile watching Carmen twirl in her designer gown. The dress is perfect, I said, and it was. Simple, elegant, everything Carmen wasn't. I knew you'd love it, Carmen beamed. And wait until you see the house, Tatum. It's absolutely perfect. Lucas and I close next week. Can't wait, I replied, my phone buzzing in my pocket. A text from Jake. Free for coffee tomorrow? Need to catch up. Oh, Carmen clapped her hands. You should come to dinner tonight. Lucas's parents are coming over, and Dad's making his famous paella. Wouldn't miss it, I said, typing back to Jake. Tomorrow at 10, the usual place. That evening, I watched my family gather around the dinner table, laughing and planning Carmen's perfect day. Lucas's parents were lovely people, completely unaware of the undercurrents of tension. To Carmen and Lucas, Dad raised his glass. And their new beginning. Everyone clinked glasses. I took a sip of wine, studying Carmen's perfectly manicured hands, wondering if she ever thought about the ring that should have been on mine. Tatum's been so quiet, Carmen said suddenly. Tell us about Europe. Did you meet anyone special? I smiled, setting down my glass. Actually, I did meet someone interesting recently. I paused, watching their eager faces. A real estate agent. Mom's fork clattered against her plate. You're looking to buy? Just keeping my options open, I said, echoing my words to Remy. You never know when the perfect opportunity might come along. The conversation moved on, but I caught Mom watching me with narrowed eyes. She'd always said I had Abuela's smile, the one that didn't quite reach the eyes when we were planning something. Tomorrow, I'd meet with Jake. And then, well, as Abuela used to say, patience is the companion of wisdom. I had plenty of both. Jake hadn't changed much since high school, still had that easy smile and nervous habit of tapping his fingers on the table. We sat in a quiet corner of the coffee shop, away from the morning rush. So, he said, sliding a folder across the table, I pulled the records you asked about. I opened the folder, scanning the documents inside. Tell me what I'm looking at. Your sister and Lucas barely qualified for the mortgage. Jake lowered his voice. They're stretching themselves thin. The down payment barely made the minimum requirement, even with the money from the ring sale. How much was the ring worth? The question had been burning in my mind. Jake hesitated. Market value? Around $15,000. But they sold it to a private collector who paid $25,000. My coffee turned bitter in my mouth. $25,000. That's what they thought Abuela's legacy was worth. Here's the interesting part, Jake continued, pointing to a clause in the contract. The seller included a right of first refusal clause. If they default within the first year, the property goes back on the market with strict conditions. What kind of conditions? The kind that would make it difficult for most buyers to qualify. Jake gave me a meaningful look. Unless they happen to have liquid assets and an excellent credit score. My phone buzzed. Remy. How's the meeting going? Don't do anything stupid. Jake. I leaned forward. What exactly do you owe my sister and Lucas? Nothing. He shrugged. They're just clients. But you, he smiled. You helped my sister stay in the country. I haven't forgotten that. I nodded slowly. So, if another buyer came along, one with better qualifications? Jake raised an eyebrow. I'd have to present any legitimate offers to the seller. It's my legal obligation. I gathered the documents, sliding them into my bag. Thanks, Jake. I appreciate the information. Tatum, he called as I stood up. Whatever you're planning, be careful. Real estate can get messy. Don't worry, I smiled. I learned from the best. Our high school debate team captain, remember? An hour later, I sat in Remy's law office, spreading the documents across her desk. This is insane, she said, reading through the mortgage terms. They're one missed payment away from disaster. Exactly. I pulled out my laptop. And look at this, Carmen's wedding budget spreadsheet. She accidentally shared it with my old email. Remy whistled at the numbers. These are some expensive taste. How are they affording all this? They're not, I said grimly. They're counting on wedding gifts to cover the gaps. But with the house payment, property taxes, and the wedding debt, it's a house of cards, Remy finished. But Tatum, if you're thinking what I think you're thinking, I have the money, I cut in. That deal I closed in Europe, the bonus was substantial. This isn't about money, Remy pushed back from her desk. This is about family. Are you ready for what this will do to them? To you? My phone lit up with a text from Carmen. Cake tasting tomorrow. Don't be late like you were for the dress fitting. They weren't ready for what selling Abuela's ring would do to me, I replied, showing Remy the text. Besides, I'm not doing anything wrong, just being strategic. Remy sighed, pulling out a legal pad. Okay, if we're doing this, we're doing it right. First, you'll need a shell company to make the purchase. Keep your name off everything until the last possible moment. We spent the next hour planning, Remy's legal expertise helping me navigate the complexities of real estate law. By the time I left her office, the framework of my plan was solid. At the cake tasting the next day, I watched Carmen and Lucas sample flavors, their faces glowing with excitement. Try this one. Carmen pushed a plate toward me. It's champagne with raspberry filling. I took a bite, thinking about the documents in my bag. It's perfect, I said, just like everything else in your wedding. I know, Carmen beamed. And wait until you see what we're doing with the house. Lucas's parents are helping us furnish it as a wedding gift. That's so generous, I smiled, remembering the clause in their mortgage about furnishing loans. When do you move in? Right after the honeymoon, Carmen said dreamily. It's like a fairy tale, isn't it? Everything falling into place perfectly. I thought about Abuela's ring, probably sitting in some collector's vault. About the portrait that had disappeared from our wall, about promises broken and memories sold. Yes, I said, taking another bite of cake, just like a fairy tale. But fairy tales, as Abuela used to remind me, weren't always sweet. Sometimes they were warnings wrapped in sugar coating, teaching lessons about greed, betrayal, and consequences. And I was about to teach my family a lesson they'd never forget. The real estate office buzzed with activity as I signed the final paperwork for my shell company. Jake sat across from me, sliding document after document across his desk. Remember, he said quietly, timing is everything. One wrong move and this all falls apart. I know. I initialed another page. Has Carmen made her payment this month? Jake checked his computer. Barely. They had to pull from their wedding fund. He lowered his voice further. The caterer called me yesterday, asking if I knew why their last check bounced. My phone lit up with a text from Mom. "Family dinner tonight. No excuses." Perfect timing, I muttered, signing the last document. "How long until everything's in place?" 2 weeks, Max. Jake gathered the papers. Just in time for the wedding. That evening, I walked into my parents' house to find Carmen in tears at the kitchen table. "What happened?" I asked, though I already knew. "The florist," Carmen sobbed. "They're demanding full payment up front now. Something about their policy changing." Mom shot me a suspicious look as she patted Carmen's back. "It's okay, mi amor. We'll figure something out." "I could help," I offered innocently. "I have some savings." "No," Dad interrupted, entering the kitchen. "We don't need your money, Tatum. We'll handle this as a family." "Like you handled Abuela's ring?" The words slipped out before I could stop them. The kitchen fell silent. Carmen's sobs quieted to hiccups. "That's enough," Mom snapped. "We're not discussing this again." "Fine." I sat down watching Dad serve the enchiladas. "How's the house, Carmen? Everything ready for the move?" Carmen brightened slightly. "Almost. The painters finish next week and then—" "If we can afford it," Lucas cut in, joining us at the table. He looked tired, worry lines creasing his forehead. "The rates on our credit cards just went up." I took a bite of enchilada, hiding my smile. Amazing what a few calls to credit card companies about suspicious activity could do. "You two are just having pre-wedding jitters," Mom insisted. "Everything will work out." My phone buzzed. "Remy, papers are filed. You're officially a ghost buyer." "Speaking of work," I said, putting my phone away, "I might be buying some property in the area. Any advice, Lucas? You're in real estate development, right?" Lucas shifted uncomfortably. "Actually, I'm between projects right now. The market's complicated." "That's not what I heard," I pressed. "Jake mentioned some interesting opportunities coming up." Carmen's fork clattered against her plate. "You've been talking to Jake?" "Just catching up," I shrugged. "We were friends in high school, remember?" The tension around the table was delicious. Mom's eyes narrowed, Dad studied his plate, and Carmen exchanged worried glances with Lucas. "More enchiladas?" Dad offered weakly. Later that night, Remy called as I was driving home. "The florist called," she said. "They're willing to be flexible on the payment schedule." "How flexible?" "They'll take half now, half after the wedding." "But Tatum?" Remy paused. "I saw the guest list. Over 200 people. The numbers don't add up." "They never did," I replied, pulling into my driveway. "That's the point." The next morning, I met Jake at Carmen and Lucas's future house. The painters were taking a break, leaving us alone in the empty living room. "The seller's interested in your offer," Jake said, his voice echoing off the bare walls. "If anything happens with the current buyers—" I walked to the window, looking out at the perfectly manicured lawn. "And the timing?" "Their next payment is due 3 days before the wedding." Jake checked his phone. "If they miss it, everything's ready to go." I turned, taking in the space where Carmen had planned to put her wedding photos, the corner where she'd picked out a Christmas tree spot. "Having second thoughts?" Jake asked. "No." I pulled out my phone, showing him a photo of Abuela's ring. They made their choice. Now they'll live with it. That afternoon, Carmen called me in a panic. "The wedding planner quit," she cried. "Something about professional integrity and bounced checks. Tatum, what am I going to do?" "Breathe," I said calmly. "I'll help you find another one." "Really? But you've been so distant lately." "You're my sister," I replied, thinking of the documents sitting in my safe. "Family helps family, right?" As I hung up, another text from Remy appeared. "Last chance to back out." I looked at the photo of Abuela on my desk, her ring glinting in the sunlight. "Sometimes," she used to say, "the most important lessons cost everything. No backing out, I texted back. The house of cards is about to fall. 1 week before the wedding, I stood in Carmen and Lucas's future kitchen, watching them argue in hushed tones by the granite countertop they couldn't afford. "We can't keep pulling from the wedding fund," Lucas hissed. "The mortgage payment is due in 4 days. "My parents will help," Carmen insisted, but her voice wavered. "They always do." "They can't," I interrupted, making them both jump. "Dad's credit cards are maxed out. I saw the statements on his desk yesterday." Carmen's face crumpled. "Why are you here, Tatum? To gloat?" "I'm here to help with the wedding plans, like you asked." I set my laptop on the counter. "Unless you don't want my help anymore?" Lucas ran his hands through his hair. "I need to make some calls." He walked out, phone already pressed to his ear. Carmen slumped against the counter. "Everything's falling apart," she whispered. "The caterer's threatening to cancel. The venue wants the final payment tomorrow. And now the house. You could postpone the wedding," I suggested, watching her carefully. "No." Carmen straightened up. "Everything has to be perfect. We've invited everyone, booked everything. I can't be the failure of the family." "Like me?" The words hung in the air between us. Carmen's eyes filled with tears. "That's not what I meant. You're successful. You're gone too long." I quoted Mom's words back at her. "Too focused on my career?" "Tatum, about the ring." My phone buzzed. "Jake, payment deadline tomorrow. They haven't made any arrangements." "I have to go." I cut Carmen off, gathering my things. "Wedding emergency to handle." As I reached the door, Carmen called out, "Wait, I never thanked you for helping with everything these past weeks." I turned back, seeing my little sister, really seeing her, for the first time since I'd returned. She looked small, scared, nothing like the confident bride who dismissed my feelings about Abuela's ring. "That's what family does," I said, the words tasting like ash in my mouth. At home, I found Remy waiting on my doorstep. "We need to talk," she said, following me inside. "I just got off the phone with the venue. They're giving Carmen and Lucas until tomorrow noon to pay, or they're canceling." "I know." I poured us both a glass of wine. "The mortgage payment is due the same day." "Tatum." Remy set her glass down untouched. "I saw them today at the park near my office. They looked happy, in love, despite everything." "Love doesn't pay bills," I said sharply, "or replace family heirlooms." "No, but—" A knock at the door interrupted us. I opened it to find Lucas standing there, looking desperate. "I need your help," he said without preamble. "I know we're not close, but Carmen loves you, and I love her. Come in." I stepped aside, watching him pace my living room. "I messed up," he admitted. "The development project I was working on fell through months ago. I've been pretending everything's fine, taking consulting jobs to make ends meet. But now reality's catching up," I finished. "Please," he looked at me, eyes red. "I'll pay you back every cent. I just need help with the mortgage payment. Just this once." Remy shot me a warning look. "Tatum." I walked to my desk, pulled out the folder of documents I'd been collecting. "How much do you know about your mortgage terms, Lucas?" "What?" "The right of first refusal clause, the accelerated default provisions." I spread the papers on my coffee table. "Did you read any of it?" His face paled. "How did you get these?" "The same way I got these." I added the credit card statements, the bounced check notices, the catering contract with its missed payments. "You've been watching us," he whispered, "planning something." "Like you planned to sell my grandmother's ring?" I kept my voice steady. "Like you planned this perfect life you can't afford?" Lucas staggered back. "Carmen was right. You've changed." "No," I corrected him. "I just stopped letting people take what's mine." He left without another word, the door closing softly behind him. That was cruel, Remy said into the silence. That was honest. I gathered the documents back into their folder. Something my family hasn't been in a long time. My phone lit up with a text from Carmen. Whatever you're planning, please don't. Not before the wedding. I'm begging you. I showed the message to Remy, who shook her head. It's not too late to stop this. But as I looked at the empty space on my finger where Abuela's ring should have been, I knew it had been too late the moment they sold it. The payment deadline is tomorrow, I said, finishing my wine. Let's see if love really conquers all. The wedding day arrived with perfect weather and imperfect timing. I stood in front of the church mirror, adjusting my bridesmaid's dress while my phone buzzed with notifications. Jake, payment missed, default proceedings initiated. Remy, venue payment cleared last minute, weddings on. Jake, offer accepted by seller, papers ready. You look beautiful, Mom said, appearing behind me in the mirror. Almost as beautiful as Carmen. Almost, I echoed, watching her face. Did you help them with the venue payment? Mom's smile tightened. We sold some things. More family heirlooms? Enough, Tatum. She gripped my shoulders. Today is your sister's day. Don't ruin it. The church filled quickly with guests in designer outfits, all here to witness Carmen's perfect day. I stood at my assigned spot, clutching my bouquet, watching Lucas fidget at the altar. The wedding march began, and Carmen appeared on Dad's arm. She was radiant in her white dress, smiling through her veil. For a moment, I almost wavered. Then I saw it, on her finger, a new ring, diamond-encrusted, obviously expensive. My stomach churned. Dearly beloved, the priest began, but my phone vibrated silently in my hidden dress pocket. Jake again. Everything's done. You own the house. The ceremony passed in a blur of vows and promises. Promises, I thought bitterly, like the one they made to Abuela about her ring. At the reception, Carmen danced with Lucas, their faces glowing with joy. I sat at my assigned table, watching the champagne flow, knowing each bottle represented money they didn't have. You okay? Remy asked, sliding into the seat beside me. Perfect. I pulled an envelope from my clutch. The timing couldn't be better. Tatum, please. Ladies and gentlemen, the DJ's voice boomed. It's time for the maid of honor's speech. I stood, envelope in hand, and made my way to the microphone. The room fell silent. My sister Carmen, I began, has always known exactly what she wanted. The perfect wedding, the perfect house, the perfect life. I paused, meeting her eyes across the room, and she's always known how to get it. Carmen's smile faltered slightly. When we were kids, I continued, Carmen wanted my favorite doll. She cried until our parents made me give it to her. When we were teenagers, she wanted my prom date. She got him too. Uncomfortable murmurs rippled through the crowd. But this year, she wanted something that wasn't hers to take. I pulled out my phone, showing the picture of Abuela's ring. This ring survived wars, crossed oceans, and was promised to me. But Carmen wanted a perfect wedding more than she wanted to keep that promise. Tatum, Mom warned from her table, but I kept going. So today, on this perfect day, I wanted to give my sister and her new husband a gift. I held up the envelope. Something to match their perfect taste. Lucas stood, his face pale. Tatum, don't. It's the deed to your dream house, I announced, watching their faces. Or rather, my dream house now. The payment you missed yesterday, the one you needed for your perfect wedding. It triggered the default clause, and I was there, ready to buy. The room erupted in gasps and whispers. Carmen's perfect makeup began to run with tears. You can't, she whispered into the microphone I still held. That's our home. Was your home? I corrected, just like this was my ring. I set the envelope on their table. Consider it karma or consider it justice. Either way, you have 30 days to vacate. Congratulations on your perfect wedding. I turned to leave, but Carmen grabbed my arm. How could you? She sobbed. We're family. Family? I pulled away. Family keeps promises. Family respects memories. Family doesn't sell what isn't theirs to sell. Enough! Dad's voice boomed across the room. Both of you, outside, now. In the garden behind the venue, surrounded by the roses Carmen had insisted on, our family drama reached its breaking point. Fix this, Mom demanded. Give them back the house. Like you gave back my ring? I challenged. Carmen sank onto a bench, her white dress pooling around her. We needed the money, she whispered. We were desperate. And now you're homeless, I replied. Funny how karma works. Por favor, Dad pleaded. We can work this out. I looked at my family, Mom's angry tears, Dad's disappointment, Carmen's ruined makeup, Lucas's defeated stance, and felt nothing but a cold satisfaction. The house is mine, I said firmly, just like the ring was supposed to be mine. You all made your choices. Now live with them. I walked away, leaving them in the garden, the sound of Carmen's sobs following me into the night. In my purse, the house keys jingled with every step, a melody of revenge finally served. The morning after the wedding, I sat in my new kitchen, their kitchen, surrounded by half-unpacked boxes and the echo of what I'd done. My phone hadn't stopped buzzing since last night. Mom, how could you do this to your sister? Dad, we need to talk. Remy, call me when you're ready. Carmen, please, we can fix this. A knock at the door interrupted my thoughts. I opened it to find Lucas standing there, still in his wedding suit, looking like he hadn't slept. Can I come in? His voice was hoarse. I stepped aside, watching him take in the boxes I'd already moved in. Efficient? He commented dryly. I learned from the best, I replied. How's Carmen? Destroyed. He ran a hand through his disheveled hair. She's at your parents' house, crying about how she's lost everything. Her sister, her home, her perfect life. And the ring? Lucas met my eyes. That's why I'm here. I found something you should see. He pulled out his phone, showing me an email. The collector who bought your grandmother's ring, he's willing to sell it back. My heart skipped. What's the catch? Double the price, Lucas said. $50,000. I laughed bitterly. And you're telling me this because? Because I know where the ring really is. He pulled an envelope from his jacket. Carmen never sold it. She pawned it. The world tilted sideways. What? She was going to get it back, Lucas continued. After the wedding, when things settled down, the collector's story was to make it seem final, so you wouldn't look for it. My hands shook as I opened the envelope. Inside was a pawn ticket, dated 3 months ago. Why are you showing me this? Because I love Carmen, Lucas said simply. But what she did was wrong, and now we're both paying for it. The doorbell rang again. This time it was Carmen, mascara streaked down her face, still in her wedding dress. You weren't supposed to tell her, she screamed at Lucas, pushing past me into the house. That was our only leverage. Leverage? I grabbed her arm. You were going to blackmail me with my own grandmother's ring? I was desperate, Carmen wrenched away. The house, the wedding, everything was falling apart. I needed you to give it back. Give it back? I advanced on her. Like you gave back my ring? Oh, wait, you didn't sell it. You pawned it, like some cheap piece of costume jewelry. Girls, Mom's voice cut through our argument. She stood in the doorway, Dad behind her. Enough. No, I said firmly. Not enough. Carmen, where's the pawn ticket? I'm not giving it to you. She clutched her purse tighter. Not unless you sign the house back over. Carmen, Lucas warned, but she ignored him. You want your precious ring, she continued. Then give us back our home. I looked at my sister, really looked at her. The desperate gleam in her eyes, the way her perfect wedding dress was now wrinkled and stained, the new ring on her finger that probably cost as much as the down payment they couldn't afford. You haven't changed since we were kids, I said quietly, still thinking you can cry your way into getting whatever you want. And you're still the same bitter, jealous sister, Carmen spat, always thinking everyone owes you something. Stop it, both of you. Dad stepped between us. This isn't what your grandmother would have wanted. No. I turned to him. Abuela taught me to fight for what matters, to stand up for myself. Where were you when Carmen took what was mine? When Mom pawned my inheritance? We were trying to help your sister, Mom pleaded. By hurting me? I pulled out my phone, dialing Jake's number. Hello? Yes, I need you to start the eviction proceedings immediately. Tatum, no! Carmen lunged for my phone, but Lucas held her back. 30 days, I said into the phone, watching my sister collapse into Lucas's arms. Not a day more. You'll regret this, Mom said, her voice cold. Family is forever, Tatum. Family? I gestured around the empty house. Family died the day you chose her perfect wedding over Abuela's wishes. They left one by one. First Mom and Dad, then Lucas, practically carrying a hysterical Carmen. The pawn ticket was still in her purse, along with whatever leverage she thought she had over me. My phone buzzed one more time. Remy. Was it worth it? I looked around at my new house, bought with betrayal and paid for with pain. The walls seemed to echo with Carmen's sobs, with Mom's disappointment, with Dad's silence. No going back now, I texted Remy. But as I stood in my victory, I felt nothing but hollow. The pawn shop bell jingled as I pushed open the door. Behind the counter, an elderly man looked up from his newspaper. Can I help you? I placed the pawn ticket on the counter. Carmen had finally surrendered it last night, slipping it under my door with a note. I hope it was worth it. The man examined the ticket, then disappeared into the back. My heart pounded as I waited, remembering Abuela's words the day she gave me the ring. Power isn't in the gold, mi amor. It's in what we choose to do with it. He returned with a familiar velvet box. Inside, Abuela's ring caught the fluorescent light, its worn gold and tiny diamonds exactly as I remembered. That'll be $3,000 plus interest, he said. I handed over my credit card, my hands shaking slightly. As I slipped the ring onto my finger, my phone buzzed. Remy. Did you get it? Me. Yes, meeting you in 20. I found Remy at the courthouse, clutching a manila envelope. Are you sure about this? She asked, handing me the papers. No, I admitted, but Abuela would be. We drove to my parents' house in silence. Carmen's car was in the driveway, along with a moving truck. They were packing up her things, preparing for the eviction. Mom opened the door, her face hardening when she saw me. Come to gloat? No. I held up the envelope. I came to fix things. In the living room, Carmen sat surrounded by wedding gifts they'd have to return. Lucas stood by the window, while Dad occupied his usual armchair. What's this? Carmen asked as I placed the envelope on the coffee table. Open it. With trembling fingers, she pulled out the documents. Her eyes widened as she read. A lease agreement? 1 year, I explained. Market rate rent. After that, if you make every payment on time, you'll have the option to buy back the house. Why? Lucas stepped forward. After everything, I held up my hand, Abuela's ring glinting. Because this ring isn't about power or punishment. It's about family. Carmen stared at the ring. How did you... The pawn ticket you gave me. I sat beside her. Carmen, what we did to each other. It has to stop. But the house is yours now, she whispered. You won. Nobody won. I took her hand. Look at us. Look at what we've become. Mom moved closer, her eyes on the ring. Your abuela would be so disappointed in all of us. No, I corrected her. She'd be waiting for us to make it right. Dad cleared his throat. The lease payments? They're reasonable? More than reasonable, Lucas confirmed, reviewing the papers. This is generous, Tatum. With conditions, I added. First, no more secrets, no more manipulation. And Carmen, I turned to my sister. You need help with the spending, real help. Carmen nodded, tears spilling down her cheeks. I know. I've already called a financial advisor. And the wedding gifts? I asked. Being returned, Lucas said firmly. All of them. We're starting fresh. Mom touched the ring on my finger. It looks right, she said softly. It belongs there. Yes, I agreed. And this house belongs to all of us. The memories we'll make here, the family we'll rebuild. That's worth more than revenge. Carmen hugged me suddenly, her tears soaking my shoulder. I'm so sorry, she whispered, for everything. Me too, I whispered back. Dad stood, his eyes misty. Your abuela used to say that family is like a garden. Sometimes you have to prune hard to grow stronger. But you don't pull out the roots, I finished, remembering abuela's words. Later that evening, as Carmen and Lucas signed the lease agreement, Mom brought out an old photo album. Look, she said, opening to a page with abuela's picture. She's wearing the ring here at your 5th birthday party, Tatum. In the photo, abuela sat between Carmen and me, one arm around each of us, the ring catching the light just like it did now. She knew, didn't she? Carmen asked quietly, that we'd need something to bring us back together someday. She knew we'd find our way back, I replied, touching the ring. If we were brave enough to choose family over pride. As I drove home that night, I passed the house, their house now, at least for the next year. The moving truck was gone, and lights glowed warmly in the windows. My phone buzzed one last time. Carmen, thank you for giving us a second chance. We won't waste it. I smiled, abuela's ring comfortable on my finger where it belonged. Sometimes the greatest power isn't in winning the fight, but in knowing when to end it. And sometimes, just sometimes, karma works in mysterious ways, not to punish, but to heal.